Chapter 1 or 2, The Painting. On the afternoon of the fifth day, a dense fog suddenly enveloped the area outside the school. Seeing this thick fog, everyone knew it was time for them to go home. They walked through the school, but could no longer see anyone. The four fortunate survivors all understood that they and the NPCs of this Crimson Door world had been completely separated by the fog. The familiar old bus was already waiting outside the school. After boarding, everyone felt drowsy and exhausted, drifting off into a hazy sleep. 5 days of high-intensity tension had severely tested their spirits and willpower. When Ningqiu Shui woke up, the bus had already stopped at the address of the ghost dwelling, having waited for who knows how long. He got off the bus and glanced at the watch on his wrist. It was past midnight. When he opened the door and stepped inside, in the main hall, the charcoal brazier still emitted a light that wasn't too bright but very warm. Lu Chengfeng was sitting there, roasting corn. Xiao Gei is back! Seeing Ningqiu Shui return safe and sound, Lu Chengfeng was overjoyed, smiling as he handed him a soft, roasted ear of corn. Although there were a few charred black spots on the outside, it was truly fragrant. "Why are you alone?" Ningqiu Shui asked vaguely. Lu Chengfeng replied calmly, "Today is the weekend." Tianxun's younger sister came back from school, so he went home with her. At first, I also dozed off in the afternoon, but something happened at the shop tonight. My Shixiong and Shidi couldn't handle it, so they asked me to come back and deal with it. I didn't have dinner, and when I got back, I was so hungry I could only roast a few ears of corn to eat. Ningqiu Shui took a few bites of the corn and praised, "The roasted corn is delicious." This roasted corn was truly fragrant. With one bite, the outer layer was crispy, while the inside was soft, chewy, and resilient. As you chewed, a sweet flavor spread in your mouth. When I was young, the shop was poor, and we didn't have enough rice to eat. 8 out of 10 meals, everyone could only eat corn and sweet potatoes. I've been roasting with Shifu since I was little, so of course my skills are proficient. Lu Chengfeng chuckled. This smile carried a touch of simple, unspoken sincerity. Ningqiu Shui could sense Lu Chengfeng's nostalgia for that time. "By the way, Xiao Jie, how did the girl you were protecting this time turn out?" Facing Lu Chengfeng's question, Ningqiu Shui's tone didn't waver in the slightest. "She's dead." Hearing this, Lu Chengfeng was stunned, then sighed, reaching out to pat Ningqiu Shui's shoulder, comforting him. "I know it's not your fault. A person's abilities are limited after all. You can't save everyone. Don't put too much pressure on yourself." Ningqiu Shui looked at Lu Chengfeng with a sympathetic expression and unexpectedly replied, "I killed her." Lu Chengfeng, who was still comforting Ningqiu Shui, immediately froze. The corner of his mouth twitched, and it took him a long while to say, "Not you, Xiao Gei, this." Ningqiu Shui took the opportunity to recount what he had experienced after the Crimson Door. After listening, Lu Chengfeng remained silent for a long time before sighing. "This world, the human heart is unfathomable. I'm done eating. I'm going to rest now." Ningqiu Shui bid Lu Chengfeng farewell and went into his room, turning on the light. He spoke and looked at a series of messages that Field Mouse had sent him. The main point was, last time he went to help Bai Xiao kill someone, the organization behind it was actually related to the half-mountain demon who had once sent assassins to kill him. Ningqiu Shui was slightly surprised. If that was the case, then the death of the ghost-dwelling senior, Uncle Mang, was very likely something the half-mountain demon knew about. Among these people, it was clear that some had also entered the Mist World. It's just that the motive of these people for killing Uncle Mang was still unknown. According to Bai Xiao's previous description, everyone's ghost artifact has an absolutely unique, personal nature, regardless of whether the person is alive or dead. Therefore, killing for loot in the world behind the Crimson Door was not a possibility. If not for profit, why take such a huge risk to kill an elder of the ghost dwelling? Ningqiu Shui was very curious about the half-mountain demon's motive. From other people in the ghost dwelling, he knew that this senior named Uncle Mang was quite capable. Killing him was no easy task. Besides needing a meticulous plan, it also required some very capable people to carry it out. If there was no benefit, they wouldn't risk actively entering the world behind the Crimson Door to assassinate a target that could very well fail. All signs pointed to Uncle Mang's death being related to some secret they didn't want others to know. And this secret, Bai Xiaoxiao and Tianxun didn't tell Ning Chu Shui. In fact, Ning Chu Shui felt that perhaps even Bai Xiaoxiao didn't know. At this moment, he remembered the 3 mysterious, unsigned letters. An idea occurred to Ning Chu Shui. Could there be some connection between these 2 matters? He lay on the bed, staring at the messages Field Mouse had sent him, silent for a long time before finally replying. "Help me investigate this organization further. I want to talk to their leader." After sending this message, he fell asleep. The next day, after finishing lunch, Ning Chu Shui told Liu Feng and took the bus home. After entering his room, he immediately took out the phone of the target. Bai Xiaoxiao had wanted him to assassinate before, carefully wrapped it in a plastic bag, and waited about 10 minutes. Then a short young man with a buzz cut knocked on Ning Chu Shui's door. The 2 didn't say anything. Ning Chu Shui directly handed the mobile phone in his hand to the man, who then turned and left. Closing the door again, Ning Chu Shui turned on the cooing bird computer. Unexpectedly, in the chat window, Red Bean had replied again. "Not interested. No meeting." Any clues about the letter? Looking at the content in the chat window, Ning Chu Shui's heart began to race. His fingers lightly glided over the keyboard, and he soon replied, "Found nothing. The other person is the same. Perhaps if you could provide me with some clues on paper, it would be more useful." This time, Red Bean was silent for a very long time. Just when Ning Chu Shui thought he wouldn't reply, the other party sent a picture. The picture was a bit strange. The surroundings were an indistinct black. In the middle was a small path. This path was narrow and straight, it was only about a foot wide, with bottomless, pitch-black chasms on either side. At the end of the narrow path was a crimson door. Unlike the crimson door on the 3rd floor of the ghost dwelling, the crimson door at the end of this narrow path was completely stained red with fresh blood. A man stood before the crimson door, his back to the viewer, his left hand seemingly clutching his chest, his right hand also red as blood, poised to knock on the crimson door. But because the crimson door in the painting was too far away, the figure at the door was also drawn very small and blurry. "This is the painting from the letter. If you find anything, remember to contact me." Red Bean sent a message like that, and then went offline. After looking at the painting, Ning Shui sat in front of the computer, thinking for a very long time. He even deliberately took a screenshot of the painting and sent it to Field Mouse, asking him to help check if there were any similar analyses. Time passed very quickly, and in the blink of an eye, it was afternoon. Field Mouse sent him a new file containing a lot of information, all about the organization Half Mountain Demon. After carefully reading this document, Ning Chu Shui learned that Half Mountain Demon was an underground organization, and its current boss was named Yun Du. Tonight, he had an important meeting to attend at the Grand Auditorium in the southern part of Pomegranate City. This guy was bringing 30 bodyguards. Besides the 4 who would accompany him openly, there were 26 others who would hide around him disguised as passersby. Ning Chu Shui needed to identify these people himself. The attachment Field Mouse sent to Ning Chu Shui also included maps, the layout of the buildings around the Grand Auditorium, and so on, all very detailed. After memorizing all these things thoroughly in his mind, Ning Chu Shui began to formulate his plan. To talk to this guy named Yun Du, he had to figure out a way to deal with his bodyguards. Killing 30 people in such a complex environment wasn't a difficult task for Ning Chu Shui. The problem was that the process of killing these 30 people had to be very fast and secretive. Otherwise, the people inside the Grand Auditorium would notice. This was a severe test of his professional skills. Since leaving the chaotic borderlands, Ning Chu Shui hadn't performed such high-intensity, dangerous work in a long time. He was no longer that 17 or 18-year-old boy. His reaction speed back then was absolutely incomparable to now. Ning Chu Shui clearly remembered that at 18, he could even dodge a close-range gunshot by observing the opponent's gaze and sensing their killing intent. If you asked him to do that again now, he couldn't. Although his experience was richer, his physical strength greater, and he was even more agile, his reaction ability was no longer what it used to be. However, after years of tempering, what Ning Chu was stronger at now than before were his eyes and his mature intellect. After confirming the time and location, he casually brought some weapons and money and went to the location in Pomegranate City to survey the environment. The southern part of Pomegranate City was different from the north. Security here was relatively chaotic, criminal cases occurred frequently, police forces were insufficient, and the towards. Faced with many matters, they could only turn a blind eye. As long as it wasn't a case involving major property loss or human lives, they usually wouldn't pay too much attention. Outside the Grand Hall, Ning Chu wandered around the nearby streets, eating and strolling. Occasionally, he entered some buildings and residential complexes, searching for discreet observation points. After surveying the location, Ning Chu found a cafe, listening to the soft music inside while quietly waiting for nightfall. There was a private room on the second floor of this cafe that offered a view of the situation in front of the Grand Hall's entrance. It was a very discreet observation point. Ordinary people would never think of this place. Around 9 in the evening, a luxurious black limousine slowly stopped in front of the Grand Hall's entrance. Ning Chu saw the license plate, his eyes flashing. He knew the target he was waiting for had arrived. A thin, middle-aged man with salt and pepper hair, wearing a suit, stepped out from the rear door. Immediately afterward, 4 burly bodyguards in black suits also got out of the car, escorting the middle-aged man into the Grand Hall. Watching them leave, Ning Chu put on his cap, turned to scan the payment code, and then left the cafe. He took out his phone, opened the contacts, scrolled to the bottom, and sent a message to Washing Machine, south of Shiliu City, 31. The first part was the location. The second was the number of people who would disappear tonight. Ning Shui walked a lap around the Grand Hall along a pre-planned route. Along the way, he ate at roadside stalls, bought water, and disposed of trash. Only occasionally did he glance at passers-by or the vendors around him. After completing the lap, Ning Chu had identified all his targets. Although these people were skilled at concealment, they still couldn't escape his notice. Having located enough people and determined their identities and operational range, Ning Chu would now begin to act. First, he went to an old residential complex, his eyes scanning for idle young men loitering around. Most of them were thugs. In the south of Shiliu City, thugs were plentiful. Ning Chu found a few who looked robust and transferred 1,000 yuan to each. The thugs, seeing Ning Chu act so generously, their eyes lit up, almost wanting to kneel immediately, kowtow twice, and shout, "Godfather! See that fruit stall over there?" Ning Chu pointed to a fruit stall in the distance. The 4 nodded. "Go rob his stuff. Pick things that are easy to grab. Run after taking them, and don't look back. This money is yours." The 4 thugs, hearing such a simple request, were momentarily stunned, wondering if they were dreaming. Even without this 1,000 yuan, they occasionally engaged in zero-cost shopping, bullying weak-handed street vendors. For them, this was just an everyday occurrence in the district. "Is it really that simple, Dage?" Ning Chu nodded. "That's all there is to it. But I have one condition. You can't go together. You must go one at a time. If the vendor chases you, run towards that street over there." After speaking, he pointed to a street. The 4 thugs understood and followed Ning Chu's instructions to complete their task. That fruit seller wasn't a real street vendor, but a bodyguard in disguise. He had appeared abruptly after the black limousine arrived in front of the Grand Hall. The reason for dealing with this person first was because the position he occupied was the Heaven's Eye, the most crucial vantage point. With just a slight shift to the left or right, he could see all the bodyguards on both sides. If this one wasn't taken care of, the subsequent disappearances would be easily detected. While the thugs were acting, Ning Chu also began his preparations. He knew the disappearance of the Heaven's Eye could buy him time, but that time wouldn't be long. So after the Heaven's Eye was gone, he needed to eliminate the other bodyguards at the fastest possible speed. By the time Ning Chu finally finished dealing with all 26 bodyguards outside, nearly 2 hours had passed. The driver sitting in the black limousine, playing on his phone, suddenly heard a crisp tap sound from the window. He looked up but saw nothing. but the moment he lowered his head again, another crisp thump came from the window. The driver frowned. This time, he pressed his face close to the glass and clearly saw a faint scratch on it, as if hit by a stone. The driver, of course, knew how expensive this car was. Angrily, he rolled down the window, intending to stick his head out and see which blind bastard dared to throw stones at this car. However, the moment the window rolled down, the driver sensed something was wrong. Because if there were any delinquent kids or brats daring to throw stones at this car, those 26 bodyguards outside definitely wouldn't just sit idle. He realized something was amiss, but it was too late. A nail gun was already pointed straight at his forehead from the window. "Aye!" The driver broke out in a cold sweat. Ning Shui leaned his head into the car and smiled at the driver. "Get out of the car." The driver raised both hands, not daring to move, and slowly stepped out of the vehicle. "Do you know who I am?" Ning Shui asked. The driver shook his head. It was pitch dark, hard to see clearly. Moreover, the two were standing close together, and the black limousine blocked the view, so no one noticed the current situation between them. "I am Coffin. I have a bit of a reputation in the circle. Weren't you all looking for me before?" Hearing the two words, "coffin," the driver's body trembled violently. He couldn't comprehend why this god of death had come for them at this moment. How had he managed to sneak right next to him under the noses of those 26 professional bodyguards? "Don't bother looking anymore. They're all dead. But tonight, I only plan to kill 31 people. If you cooperate, you might not have to die. Understand?" The driver trembled slightly, then nodded. Understood." Hearing that Ning Shui had already dealt with the 26 bodyguards outside, this driver felt a chill run from head to toe. To silently take out 26 professional bodyguards alone. How was that even possible? Ning Shui seemed to guess his thoughts, chuckled softly, and patiently explained. "If it were a fight in an alley or an open area, I naturally couldn't handle all of them alone. But you chose the wrong location. This place has too many hiding spots, creating many blind spots and visual obstructions. Do you think I killed 26 people at once? Actually, I just repeated the action of killing one person 26 times. Later, before Yundu comes out, he will definitely call you. Just communicate with him normally." The driver bit his lip, his voice trembling. "But if he finds out I'm lying, I'll definitely die." "It's fine. He'll die before you. Once he's dead, you won't have to die anymore." The driver looked at the gun in Ning Shui's hand and heard the tone that brooked no doubt. He felt like crying, but had no tears, only able to nod. The two waited for about half an hour before his phone rang. Before the driver answered, Ning Shui patted his back, comforting him. "Speak naturally. Don't let him hear anything wrong. Otherwise, if I can't kill him, I'll have to kill you tonight. Okay?" The driver nodded repeatedly, his hand holding the phone shaking uncontrollably. He had been with Yundu for many years. He couldn't be more familiar with the two words coffin. Just as Ning Shui had said, this name in the underworld had quite a reputation. It was hard for anyone hearing these two words not to feel fear, especially when that person was sitting right beside him. After connecting the call, he took a deep breath. "Boss, everything's normal. Where do we go next?" A calm man's voice came from the other end of the line. "Get in the car first, then talk. There are too many eyes here. Yes." After hanging up, the two got into the car. The car windows were one-way glass, only allowing visibility from the inside out. Outsiders couldn't see inside. Watching that middle-aged man and the 4 bodyguards getting closer and closer, Ning Shui sat calmly in the back seat, hands resting on the front seat, gently tapping his fingers. When the car door opened, a thumb-sized hole of blood immediately appeared on the forehead of one bodyguard. Yundu, about to sit in the passenger seat, sensed something was wrong and tried to run, but the driver grabbed his hand and yanked him hard into the car. Bang! The car door closed shut, making a heavy sound. The driver immediately locked the car doors. The bodyguard outside drew his pistol and fired at the window, but to no avail. This car had been specially modified with bulletproof glass, and even the tires were bulletproof. "Your anti-assassination precautions are very well done." Ning Shui sat behind Yundu, smiling faintly at the driver in front. At this moment, Yundu quickly regained his composure. "Who are you? What do you want? Speak plainly." "Whatever I can give, it's all negotiable." Ning Shui nodded. "Just waiting for you to say that, Boss Yun." After speaking, he shook the nail gun in his left hand at the driver. "Drive south, out of the city." Just as Ning Shui was talking to the driver, Yundu in the front seat suddenly reached out, trying to secretly press a button. But immediately after, he let out a miserable scream. Ning Shui directly used the nail gun to pin his hand to the seat. Not stopping there, Ning Shui reached out and broke 3 joints in Yundu's arm, the shoulder, elbow, and wrist. He did this with a terrifying calmness. The driver trembled violently, hurriedly stepped on the gas, and sped south. "All right, stop screaming. A man can't even handle a little pain like this." Ning Shui scolded Yundu sitting in front, but it was useless. The intense pain radiating from his arm and hand made Yundu keep groaning. Ning Shui then took out a folding knife from his person, on which there were still traces of undried blood. "Scream again and I'll cut out your tongue," he said with a smile. Seeing Ning Shui's devilish smile in the rearview mirror, Yundu immediately shut his mouth, gritting his teeth, not allowing himself to make a sound. He believed Ning Shui absolutely could do this. This guy came from who knows where. His actions were truly spine-chilling. "B-boss, no, Coffin, where are we going?" At this moment, the driver was so tense he couldn't speak clearly. Hearing the 2 words, "coffin," Yundu's heart turned ice cold. He knew it. He was done for. "You kidnapped me right in front of my bodyguards. Soon, my people will come looking for me. Have you thought about the consequences of doing this now?" Yundu was also a seasoned man who had been through life and death. In such a critical situation, he didn't panic, trying every way to communicate with Ning Shui, striving to seize the initiative. "They won't find you," Ning Shui said. "Past the southern suburban peach forest, all the positioning systems on your person, in the car, on your phone, they'll all lose effectiveness. I just need to deal with the 3 bodyguards following you." Yundu sneered and said, "My bodyguards aren't just those 3. Ning Shui kept looking into the rearview mirror, observing the 2 cars following behind. "Only those 3 are left. Soon they'll die in a car accident." Yundu's expression changed slightly, but his tone remained confident. "Are you so sure? Not only is the car we're in bulletproof, the 2 behind are also bulletproof." Ning Shui checked the time on his phone and told the driver to turn right. "Bulletproof? Well, are they dump truck proof?" Ning Shui's words stunned Yundu. Just as he was dumbfounded, 2 dump trucks driving at high speed overtook them from both sides. Immediately after, the sound of a violent collision rang out from behind. The violent sound of impact, accompanied by an explosion, burned away the last shred of hope in Yundu's heart. He knew the other party wasn't alone. In the silence of everyone, the car passed through the southern peach forest, plunging into the forest road. By the time Ning Shui finally told the driver to stop, the bright moon was already hanging high above the heads of the 3. Coffin dage, please. Please have a smoke." The driver hurriedly got out of the car and offered a cigarette to Ning Shui, but he refused. "Thank you, I don't smoke. In our line of work, we can't accept cigarettes from others." The driver nodded repeatedly. "Understood. Understood." Ning Shui then pointed in a direction. "If you want to smoke, go to the riverbank. When you're done, throw it into the water. Don't burn the grass here, to avoid causing a forest fire." The driver obediently ran to the riverbank. After that, Ning Shui grabbed Yundu, who was sitting in the passenger seat, and dragged him out of the car. Although he looked somewhat thin and frail, his strength was astonishing. Yundu let out a miserable scream as he was pulled down, his hand that had been nailed to the seat earlier bleeding non-stop. "All right, Boss Yun, now we can have a proper talk." Ning Shui put away the nail gun and sat down beside him. "First question, why did you send an assassin to my house to kill me before?" Yundu clenched his teeth, not intending to answer Ning Shui's question. A moment later, a wretched scream echoed through the forest, causing a nearby flock of black birds to scatter in panic. Yundu trembled all over, watching as Ning Shui cut off one of his fingers and threw it into a distant pond. Believe me, Boss Yun, you're not the most stubborn person I've ever met. Yundu's face was covered in sweat as he said with a bitter laugh, "Even if I talk, will you let me go?" Ningchu Shui said meaningfully, "If you provide enough detailed information and help me find the mastermind behind it, it's not impossible to consider letting you go." Yundu swallowed, seemingly pondering Ningchu Shui's words. He looked at the folding knife in Ningchu Shui's hand. Under the moonlight, the blade gleamed brightly, emitting a bone-piercing chill. "We didn't want to move against you either. It's because you accepted an order you shouldn't have before. Someone wants you dead." Finally, under the intense urging of his survival instinct, Yundu softened. "The order from Mountain Ghost?" "Yes. The person she wants to kill is not only connected to the Half-Mountain Demon organization, but also to another organization in the Mist World, Luo Sheng Men." Hearing the words Mist World, Ningju Shui narrowed his eyes. "You also know about the Mist World?" Yundu panted. "This isn't some big secret. It seems you're also a chosen one. If you weren't chosen, you'd forget everything I tell you about the Mist World immediately." Ningchu Shui fell into thought but quickly asked another question. "Do you know Mang?" Hearing this word, Yundu's pupils contracted. He shook his head in confusion. "No, I don't know." Ningchu Shui shook the knife in his hand. "Speak quickly. My patience is limited." Yundu kept shaking his head, his eyes filled with a terror completely unlike before, as if recalling something unspeakable, his lips trembling uncontrollably. "I can't say it. I really can't say it." Ningchu Shui's gaze shifted. Just as he was pondering how to make Yundu talk, Yundu did something he hadn't anticipated. Yundu suddenly grabbed the handle of Ningchu Shui's knife, then slammed his head down hard. The blade pierced straight through his eye and into his brain. Yundu's body convulsed a few times, then collapsed to the ground like mud, the corner of his mouth curling into a strangely relaxed smile. Looking at Yundu's corpse, Ningchu Shui fell into silence. What was wrong with this guy? He'd rather die than reveal the truth behind it all? Staring at Yundu's body lying on the ground, Ningchu Shui finally realized this matter was far more troublesome than he had imagined. If this secret could make a death-fearing person like him actively seek death, then the affairs related to it were definitely not simple. Under the moonlight, Ningchu Shui silently squatted beside Yundu's corpse, like two carved statues. The scene looked eerily abnormal. After a while, he finally stood up, waved to the driver not far away, and together they dealt with the body before leaving the place. On the way back, the driver's hands on the steering wheel wouldn't stop trembling. "You don't need to be so afraid. I won't silence you. After you get back, have a good sleep. Tomorrow you can have breakfast, then call the police and have dig up the body we buried tonight. However, if I find out you've been blabbing to anyone, the next person buried will be you." The driver hurriedly shook his head, signaling he absolutely wouldn't blab to anyone. Ningchu Shui sat in the passenger seat, looking very calm. He didn't let the driver take him into the city. Instead, he had him drop him off at a certain area in the suburbs, then got out of the car and disappeared alone into the night. Taking Yundu's car back to Shiliu City would be no different from seeking death. That car had a GPS system. As for how the driver would lie, Ningchu Shui wasn't worried about that at all. The fact that the people from the Half-Mountain Demon could find him proved they already had his residence and some basic information. Killing their boss was Ningchu Shui's warning to them. If they continued to break the rules, he wouldn't hold back anymore. Returning to his place, Ningchu Shui did a simple check of the home security system, then rested for the night. The next morning, he woke up and opened his computer. Field Mouse had sent a message back. In the phone he had found earlier, there was a very special contact named 8 Feet. The person Bai Xiao had entrusted Ningchu Shui to kill had, before dying, sent a distress message to this 8 Feet. However, this 8 Feet hadn't responded with any message at all, and he also couldn't find anyone related to this ID, as if 8 Feet only was an empty shell. Upon receiving this news, Ningchu Shui wasn't surprised. Anything related to the Mist World was never simple. 8 Feet, Luo Sheng Men, bits of information like the tip of an iceberg surfaced before Ningchu Shui's eyes. He didn't rush Field Mouse. After briefly explaining everything that happened last night to Washer, He logged into the Mistworld website, called an old bus, and returned to Ghost Dwelling. It was still a long time before the next Crimson Door would appear. Ningchu Shui wanted to take on more assignments to see if he could obtain some ghost artifacts. It must be mentioned that ghost artifacts were extremely rare. Not every object used by a ghost could be called a ghost artifact. Back at the previous Crimson Door, Ningchu Shui had tried to take the folding knife used by the smiling boy out of the Crimson Door, but he failed. As soon as he opened the door to Ghost Dwelling, Ningchu Shui saw Bai Xiao and Meng Jun sitting in the living room discussing something. The two of them noticed Ningchu Shui's return, first startled slightly, then their expressions turned somewhat complicated. Seeing their odd expressions, Ningchu Shui smiled and said, "Seems like I came at a bad time." Bai Xiao shook her head, pursing her lips. "You came just in time. We received a rather special assignment introduced by a friend. That person said there's a puzzle piece in his 4th Crimson Door. We want to go check it out. Do you want to come along?" If it were anyone else, Bai Xiao would absolutely not bring a newcomer into a 4th Crimson Door. First, it would be irresponsible toward the other person's life. Second, the other person could very well hinder them, even bring disaster upon the whole group. But she had witnessed Ningchu Shui's steady composure. Someone who remained so calm and actively sought a way out would definitely be more of an asset than a liability in a team. Can we know in advance whether there's a puzzle piece inside a Crimson Door? Ningchu Shui was somewhat surprised. Bai Xiao nodded. If a Crimson Door contains a puzzle piece, it will be specially marked in the prompt. Also, as mentioned before, starting from the 4th Crimson Door onward, the prompts for all Crimson Doors will appear earlier. You'll experience it then. Of course, if you don't want to go, we won't force you. Ningchu Shui thought for a moment. Is there information and a prompt for that Crimson Door yet? Bai Xiao nodded. She took out a printed photo and handed it to Ningchu Shui. Ningchu Shui looked carefully. The photo showed the prompt on the Crimson Door. The authenticity of this photo has been verified by the Mistworld website. It's absolutely reliable. On the photo, several lines of glaring blood-red text read, "Mission, help director Zheng Chao complete his horror film. Hint 1, the ghost's true form can be destroyed. Hint 2, do not randomly destroy the set or filming equipment. Puzzle piece 1, shooting a horror film." Ningchu Shui frowned. Just seeing this mission gave him chills down his spine. He usually reads stories too, in the supernatural genre, shooting a horror film. This usually means you'll actually encounter a ghost, and it's absolutely a top-tier evil spirit. The mission difficulty is very high. We won't force you. Meng Jun rarely spoke up. Bai Xiao chimed in. Typically, missions with puzzle pieces like this have a much higher difficulty than ordinary Crimson Doors of the same level. Ningchu Shui didn't rush to agree or refuse. He asked curiously, "There's one thing I don't understand. For instances with puzzle pieces like this, surely many people will enter together. Won't it become very chaotic inside then?" Bai Xiao gave a faint smile and explained, "First, aside from special instances, most instances have a participant limit, with a maximum of 20 people. Second, each owner undertaking a Crimson Door mission can bring up to 3 guests. Third, the mortality rate for Crimson Doors with puzzle pieces is always very high. Not everyone dares to take the risk and enter." Ningchu Shui understood. "I can go with you. When do we depart?" "Tonight. So soon?" "Yes. We don't have much time to prepare. If you want to come, I'll add you to the contract team." After Ningchu Shui agreed, Bai Xiao immediately pulled him into the contract team. Looking at the member information in the group, Ningchu Shui learned that the person they wanted to bring along this time was a member from a friendly guild named Feng, a humorous young man. In the evening, Feng cooked a table of delicious food for them. Although the taste was excellent, everyone felt something was off, especially combined with Feng's serious expression. It felt like a farewell meal. "I say, Big Beard, can you be a little less serious? It's as if the two of us are about to die." Bai Xiao couldn't help but glare. Only then did Feng realize, scratching his head somewhat awkwardly. "Ha ha ha! Sorry, I was just thinking about something else." Bai Xiao said in surprise, "Oh, someone as bold as you also has worries?" Liu Chengfeng grunted in acknowledgement, his expression embarrassed, and said nothing more. After finishing the meal, they bid farewell to Liu Chengfeng and headed to the Crimson Door on the 3rd floor. A few minutes before entering the Crimson Door, the reminder and mission details appeared identically. Not long after, that pale hand pushed the Crimson Door open, and the three of them lost consciousness. Yes, yes, yes! The script has been chosen. The rental location is about to expire, and I have no other choice. It's too late. Time is very tight. This place will be reused in another week. I heard they're going to renovate it and switch to filming a period drama. Before, when my friend gave me the new script, they also told me my old filming props need to be changed. They're not good anymore. Isn't it urgent? Let's just use them for now. All right, the actors are all set. These 17 actors are really hardworking. Young actors as diligent as them are truly rare these days. The screenwriter and old Wang from their team had some matters to attend to, so I let them leave first. The cameraman and I will shoot the raw footage here first, then hand it over to them for post-production. Don't worry, I'll definitely finish it this week. A chubby, round-faced man hung up the phone with a worried expression, then finally let out a sigh of relief and wiped the sweat from his forehead. He then clapped his hands toward the 17 actors standing on the weed-covered vacant lot and said, "All right, everyone, I'm director Zheng Chao. Listen to me for a moment. This time, I'm really sorry for asking everyone to cross mountains and forests to come to such a harsh location to film. But there's no other way. This script was assigned by the company, and the location was also rented by the company. I don't have the authority to decide, so let's try to finish shooting as soon as possible and leave early. Of course, rest assured, our Menglong company has never delayed salaries. Once we finish shooting and return, we'll settle your payments immediately. Our filming schedule this time is only 1 week. The original plan is 3 scenes per day, totaling 21 scenes, which should be exactly enough to finish in 7 days. As for food and accommodation, don't worry. The company sent people ahead to prepare enough tents and food for us here. The water source is right at the other end of the mountainside, just a 3 to 5 minute walk away. Very convenient. Also, I've already arranged the scripts and will distribute them to everyone now. We'll wait until sunset to shoot the first scene. Director Zheng Chao was a bit excited. Although this film was forced upon him by the company and was a low-budget production, he himself was a fan of horror genres. Filming a ghost movie in such an environment inevitably made him feel somewhat thrilled. Everyone on the vacant lot received the scripts distributed by Zheng Chao, skimmed through them, and roughly understood the specific content of the script. This was almost purely a script about ghostly killings. Everyone's ancestors were evildoers who had killed the original residents of the old house. They came to this old house as explorers to uncover the truth, also known as seeking their own doom. Then, while being killed by the malevolent spirits of the old house, they gradually uncovered the truth of the past. In the end, the protagonist and another female lead sincerely apologized to the malevolent spirits, were forgiven, and survived to leave the old house. During the filming process, aside from him, there was only one unsmiling cameraman. He kept fiddling with the filming equipment in the distance, his expression somewhat grave and inscrutable. As one of the supporting actors, Ning Chu Shui immediately noticed the cameraman's unusual expression. The seriousness on his face wasn't the kind of seriousness toward work. It seemed more like he was worried about something. What was he worried about? It was break time now. Ning Chu Shui folded his script and walked over to this cameraman. "Hello, my name is Ning Chu Shui. I'm a supporting actor in this film." A man's voice suddenly came from beside him, startling the cameraman who was immersed in something. He looked up, somewhat surprised, staring at Ning Chu Shui before him. It took about 3 seconds for him to snap out of it, and he somewhat flusteredly shook hands with Ning Chu Shui, replying, "Cameraman, Wang Peng." Wang Peng's response was very simple. He was quite polite, but seemed unwilling to say much to Ning Chu Shui. Just as he lowered his head to continue fiddling with the old camera, Ning Chu Shui unexpectedly asked a question. "You don't look too well. Do you know something?" Wang Peng's hand, which was fiddling with the camera, stopped. Ning Chu Shui's words carried a certain implication. Normally, the follow-up question after asking if someone doesn't look well would be, "Are you feeling unwell?" But Ning Chu Shui seemed certain that his body was fine, suggesting he knew something that made him feel very uneasy. Conversely, if Ning Chu Shui could say something that defied normal logic, did that mean he also knew this place had problems? Wang Peng slowly raised his head, carefully assessing the young man before him, then shifted his gaze to the shadow on the ground. "Know what? I don't know anything." Ning Chu Shui emphasized his tone. "You also know this place has problems, don't you? Tell me, I promise I won't blab." Wang Peng tightened his grip on the camera handle. He glanced toward the director, confirming Zheng Chao wasn't looking this way, then whispered, "Didn't the director say the company sent some people here beforehand to scout the location and left food in tents?" Ning Chu Shui nodded. "That's right." Wang Peng gave a dry cough, his voice growing even softer and deeper. "My friend also works in logistics at the company. Those people who came to scout arrived here 3 days ago, but since they got here, they haven't returned." Hearing this, Ning Chu Shui immediately frowned. "You mean the scouts have gone missing?" Wang Peng nodded. 4 people in total, all missing, none returned. My friend reported it to the police, but every time she called, the line was busy. It's too strange. Before coming to film, she kept trying to stop me. Now I suddenly feel I should have listened to her back then. When the cameraman Wang Peng reached this point, his expression had become very grim. He looked toward the vast, gloomy ancient mansion not far away and suddenly said in a low voice, "Maybe this place really does have problems." After Wang Peng said this, Ning Chu Shui clearly felt the hairs on his body stand on end. "I don't want to stay here a minute longer. Finish filming quickly and go back. If you get the chance later, try to tell the director, if we can finish in 3 days, don't drag it out to 7. After saying this, Wang Peng went back to fiddling with his camera. The sun was about to set, right in that brief moment of transition between day and night. They had a scene to shoot. As the sun, like an egg yolk, was about to sink below the distant western horizon, director Zheng Chao called everyone together and began arranging the first scene. "Everyone, get into position. Hold your props, the small flag on your backpack, pretend to be an exploration team, and review the content in your script. Now, all actors stand on that road. In a moment, I'll be on the earthen wall of that old house. When you see me give the signal, start walking towards the old house and act out your parts. Understood?" Everyone gave the director an okay gesture. Zheng Chao, with an excited expression, ran into the main gate of the old house and climbed onto the small earthen wall on the east side. He raised his arm, first calling out to the cameraman Wang Peng, "Is the camera ready?" Wang Peng shouted back, "Camera is ready." "Good. Rolling." Zheng Chao waved his hand, and everyone immediately began marching towards the old house with great vigor. They had all memorized the content of the script, not because they loved acting, but because the script in their hands was very likely related to their survival going forward. They had no choice but to study it carefully. Dusk descended. In the mountain forest, the dense trees blocked the light, making the area even gloomier. The cameraman adjusted his lens, following the group as they chatted and laughed their way towards the old house. But just as everyone reached the entrance, the cameraman behind suddenly let out a terrified scream. "Damn it!" Everyone was startled and immediately turned around to see the cameraman continuously bending over, his movements strange. Although it was already dark and they were some distance from the cameraman, they couldn't see clearly what was happening over there. However, some sharp-eyed individuals noticed that the cameraman was no longer filming them. Instead, his lens was pointed towards the earthen wall on the east side of the old house. The cameraman would look up, then bend down again, as if confirming something. He repeated this bizarre action about 10 times before suddenly letting out a mournful scream to the group. "Run!" After shouting, he alone stumbled and ran towards the mountain path, quickly disappearing. This strange scene sent shivers down everyone's spines. Even though there were 17 of them huddled together, they felt the pores all over their bodies constantly emitting a cold chill. What on earth had that cameraman seen to be scared like that? For a moment, everyone was somewhat panicked. But after all, this was the fourth crimson door, and they had prepared themselves mentally. So, very quickly, everyone suppressed the fear in their hearts. "First, don't panic. Let's go see what happened," someone suggested. At that moment, another voice rang out from the crowd. This voice carried 3 parts trembling and 7 parts fear. You guys look quickly. Look at that earthen wall." Following the reminder from this voice, everyone focused their gaze on the small, cracked earthen wall on the east side of the old house. Just moments ago, Director Zheng Chao had been standing on this small earthen wall directing them. But now, after the cameraman fled, this director not only didn't hinder them, nor did it make any sound at all. The darkness obscured their view, and the cameraman's sudden strange movements drew their attention, causing everyone to overlook the director, who was still standing on the earthen wall. He remained there, frozen in his previous posture, staring at the spot where everyone had originally been, motionless, like a wooden puppet. Everyone could only see his back, not his face. Under the cold moonlight, the people inside the ancient house saw Zheng Chao's shoulders slumped, his toes pointed, maintaining his previous stance without moving. He even had one hand raised toward the distant camera, looking utterly bizarre and inexplicable. "Director!" Bai Xiaoxiao shouted toward the distant Zheng Chao, but received no response. Everyone cautiously moved together. Only when they approached the earthen wall did they see that horrifying scene. The abandoned, originally not so tall earthen wall was now stained red with blood, and Zheng Chao, standing on the wall, had his back turned to a mess of bloody flesh. Muscle, bone, internal organs, brain, all were minced into a pulp. Yet even so, he remained standing in his previous posture, not falling. Under the night sky, everyone felt a chill run through their bodies. How long had they been inside the crimson door? Had that ghost already lost patience and attacked them? Moreover, the NPCs they thought could provide crucial information. One was now dead, and the other had fled down the mountain, fate unknown. Is this the difficulty level of the crimson door with the puzzle piece? A glint flashed in Ningqiu Shui's eyes. His nostrils suddenly caught a familiar scent. He tilted his head and saw Bai Xiaoxiao approaching, whispering into his ear, "Be careful. In a world where the Crimson Door's hint provides a clear path to survival, the ghosts are often extremely vicious." Ningqiu Shui nodded. "I want to go check that camera." Bai Xiaoxiao heard this and looked toward the camera on the roadside far outside the ancient house. "I'll go with you," she said. The two of them left the ancient house together and walked over to the camera. The camera was still on. Ningqiu Shui glanced at it, then went to the small table nearby, checking the connected computer and opening the previously recorded video. He adjusted the video to the beginning and clicked play. Some others also came over, not too far away. They stood behind Bai Xiaoxiao and Ningqiu Shui, watching the video intently. Everything before was normal. The camera had been filming them. But when they reached the door of the ancient house, the camera's angle finally captured Director Zheng Chao standing on the earthen wall in the upper right corner. It was at this moment that the expressions of those watching the video changed drastically. They all saw, standing on the earthen wall at that time wasn't just Zheng Chao alone. There was also a man with deathly pale skin, a bizarre smile on his face, and no eyes. He held a pair of scissors, standing behind Zheng Chao, frantically cutting. Snip, snip. As the video continued to play, Ningqiu Shui suddenly shuddered, realizing something was wrong. The sound of those scissors cutting through something was getting louder and clearer. Bang! It was as if that sound was getting closer to them. Sensing something was wrong, Ningqiu Shui immediately pressed the pause button. When the video on the computer stopped, that horrifying sound also vanished. "What's going on?" someone behind asked. Ningqiu Shui replied, "Didn't you all notice that sound just now was getting closer to us?" At this point, everyone's expressions suddenly changed. Near sounds loud, far sounds faint. This is common knowledge. It applies not only to images, but also to sound. It's just that because the sound came from the computer, everyone instinctively thought it was just a change in the computer's volume and didn't consider that aspect. Only a few among them had just had the same thought flash through their minds as Ningqiu Shui. Fortunately, Ningqiu Shui reacted quickly enough, pressing pause in time. Thank goodness. Ning Shui stared at the frozen video on the computer, letting out a slight sigh of relief. The worst had not happened. Ning Shui, still uneasy, rewound the video to its initial state, then closed it. Next, he shut down the computer. Damn it, this is too sinister. The mission requires us to film, but on the first day, the director and cameraman both disappeared. Damn it, what are we even supposed to film now? The young man Feng, standing beside Mengjun, glared. Everyone's expressions were not good. Many of them kept glancing toward that pitch-black ancient house. But inside, aside from that ancient building, there was only a deathly silence unknown to anyone. This mission didn't specify a time or location for them, only gave them a task. Some older, experienced door-crossers knew well that this type of mission is often more dangerous than time and location-limited missions. The mission requires us to help the director complete this scene, so even if the director and cameraman are dead, we still have to continue filming this scene. And we have to film it strictly according to the script. A tall woman with a very calm expression spoke. This woman was named Changchun, holding the female lead script in her hand. As soon as she finished speaking, the skinny girl opposite her said sarcastically, "Right, someone just wants to finish filming the script quickly, then have everyone die, leaving only herself alive. After all, what she's holding is the female lead script." Changchun frowned. "I'm doing this for everyone. This is the world behind the Crimson Door. The mission requiring us to do this definitely carries great danger. If we don't film, we'll be trapped here forever. Do you think the thing in the ancient house will spare us? By the fourth Crimson Door, people are no longer so easily fooled. At least, before being completely overwhelmed by fear, they all have a certain rationality and are even quite fierce. How ridiculous. If we don't film, the ghost will kill randomly. If we film, the ghost will very likely kill according to the script. You got the female lead script, and you want to use everyone's lives to exchange for your own? If you want to film like this, fine, let's swap scripts. You take mine, I'll take yours. I guarantee I won't say another word about it later." After speaking, the girl staggered over to Changchun and handed her the script in her hand. Changchun stared at the script thrust before her. On the cover was written a name, Yu Shui. Those who had read the script wouldn't be unfamiliar with the name Yu Shui, because this woman was the first person killed by the ghost in the script. No wonder this girl didn't want to cooperate with the filming. If they followed the script sequence, she would be the first to die. Well, swap or not? Looking at the girl's fierce demeanor, Changchun panicked a little. She took a step back, tightly clutching her own script, hiding it behind her back. Everyone's script was assigned by the director. You got a supporting female role script. You can only blame your bad luck. Why should I swap with you? The girl said coldly, "If you don't want to swap with me, then don't stand there acting all high and mighty, pretending you're doing it for everyone." Disgusting. Changchun was left speechless by her words, gritting her teeth, looking at the girl with a venomous glare. "Everyone here, don't blame me for being selfish. After all, according to the script sequence, in the end, only the male and female leads survive. The other 15 people who got supporting character scripts all die in this haunted house. I know you all really want to finish filming quickly and leave, but before things are clear, I absolutely will not film. If any of you are willing to take my place and film this supporting female role script, of course I have no objections either." This girl remained very calm from start to finish, her thinking also very clear. Her name was Jun Tiao Tiao, an older person who had already passed the 6th Crimson Door. "Anyway, we can't film tonight. Everyone should first try to find a place to rest." Bai Xiao stepped forward, making the tense atmosphere among everyone seem to ease a bit. Let me say something. Didn't the director say that the old house ahead had already been surveyed, and they left food in tents or something for us? Can we go get them now?" Feng coughed dryly, pointing at the old house in the distance. Earlier, seeing someone heading towards Ning Shui, the people behind also went out one after another. They didn't dare to stay in that strange old house any longer. Everyone stared at the old house, silent for a long time. Suddenly they saw something terrifying. A human-shaped shadow, appearing who knows when, had emerged beside Zheng Chao's corpse. It suddenly stretched out its arms, embracing Zheng Chao from behind, then dragged Zheng Chao's corpse into the old house. Damn it, what is that? In the crowd, some people with less stable mental states felt their hearts start beating faster. It might be a wild beast in the mountains, smelling the blood and coming. A wild beast in the mountains? Only you could say something like that. Could it be the ghost in the old house? But it already killed someone. What does it want with the corpse? Everyone was somewhat suspicious. Ningqiu Shui looked toward Bai Xiao, who shook her head slightly, signaling him not to enter that old house. In that case, let's just rest on this open ground tonight. After what just happened, I'm sure no one wants to go into the old house. Moreover, when I went in earlier, I noticed it's not only very large inside, but the layout is likely quite complex. If you're not familiar with it, it's easy to get lost. This is the fourth crimson door, and it's one with a puzzle piece. To suddenly separate from the group, and at night, I don't need to elaborate on what the outcome would be, do I? Jun Tiao Tiao crossed her arms, her attitude very firm. Her words successfully convinced everyone. Indeed, choosing to spend the night in the old house at this time would truly be seeking death. None of you came here alone. Leave one person on watch in your small group while the others sleep. It's best not to be too far apart. Of course, if you're brave enough to go sleep somewhere else alone, I have no objections. After saying this, Jun Tiao Tiao went with another man to the side of the open ground, chose a relatively clean and dry spot, and simply sat down. She said so much to everyone, firstly to elevate her authority within the group, and secondly because she didn't want the people present here to die too quickly. According to the 1/10 rule of the Crimson Door, the difficulty only suddenly decreases when they are down to the last person. Therefore, if considering clearing the door as a group, of course, the more survivors, the better. Restrictions. The 4 people with Ningqiu Shui also chose a spot far from the ancient mansion to sit. They kept some distance from the others. The sound of mountain insects at night was very loud, occasionally mixed with the cries of wild beasts. Bai Jie, Junge, did you two notice anything? Feng Yu seemed not to be entering a crimson door with these two for the first time and trusted them greatly. Bai Xiao looked around, scanning the area before speaking softly. Let me say this first. This instant seems to have no time limit, but it actually does. Remember when we were at the starting point, we heard Director Zheng Chao say those things on the phone? The 3 nodded. Bai Xiao continued. At that time, he mentioned that a week later, new people would come here to renovate the place for filming a period drama. But I think things might not be that simple. Based on the habits of the Crimson Door, if we don't complete the filming progress within a week, then when we encounter those people coming up the mountain a week later, who knows what might happen. All tasks related to filming must be completed within a week. Mengjun said, that makes sense, but personally, I feel the focus this time shouldn't be on filming. Instead, we should follow the Crimson Door's hint and first, find the ghost's true form and destroy it. As long as there's no ghost interference, even if we only have half a day left, we can finish shooting this thing. But on the contrary, if we're constantly harassed by ghosts during filming, not only will our progress slow down, but people will keep dying. Bai Xiao was very meticulous, and Mengjun's thoughts were also very clear. Feng Yu listened to the two of them, pondered for a moment, then suddenly patted Ningqiu Shui beside him on the shoulder and asked, Hey, what about you? Found anything? Seeing the 3 pairs of eyes fixed on him, Ningqiu Shui remained silent for a while before speaking to them. Let me see your scripts. Everyone had a copy of the script, but Ningqiu Shui wasn't clear about the identities of the 3 yet. After looking through the other 3 scripts and thinking for a moment, he said, Right now, we know nothing. There are too few clues. Guessing blindly is meaningless. But the identities of the 4 of us aren't bad. Although we're supporting roles, we're the ones who die later. If those in front of us want to start filming, we can temporarily not stop them. Let's observe the situation first. After speaking, Ningqiu Shui raised his head and swept his gaze over the people gathered in small groups of 2 or 3 on the open ground. After the crimson door, blood must be shed. We won't harm others, but there's no need to deliberately save them either. If someone wants to start filming tomorrow, let them go ahead. It's also a good opportunity to verify whether acting out the content in the script will truly lead to death. The other three nodded. At that moment, Feng Yu quietly nudged Ning Shui again. Brother Chu Shui, earlier I saw you go talk to the cameraman Wang Peng. What did you two talk about? At that time, there were many people on the open ground. Everyone was chatting with each other. It was free activity time, so not many people noticed Ning Chu Shui going to talk to Wang Peng. But they were Ning Chu Shui's teammates, so of course they paid a bit more attention to him. It was nothing much. Ning Chu Shui recounted the content of their conversation. After everyone listened, Feng Yu immediately said cheerfully, I get it. If that's the case, then it proves that Ghost appeared before we arrived. So its true form must be some object in the old house. Does everyone remember hint 2 on the crimson door? Do not arbitrarily damage the filming set or equipment. This is the crimson door's restriction on us. It also indirectly indicates that the Ghost's true form, if not our filming equipment, must be an object on the set. If Wang Peng isn't lying, then these two pieces of information mutually confirm that the Ghost's true form is indeed some object in the old house. At this point, Feng Yu was getting a bit excited. Narrowing the search scope would be a great help for their deeper investigation this time. Ning Chu Shui looked at him with some surprise, thinking to himself that this kid's mind was quite sharp. Actually, he had already thought of this too. But Ning Chu Shui's intuition told him this matter wasn't as simple as it seemed. Bai Jie, I have a question. Hint 2 from the Crimson Door gave restrictions on our behavior. So what exactly must we do to avoid being considered recklessly damaging equipment? Bai Xiao patiently explained to him, This is an ironclad rule many predecessors have tested with their lives. The meaning of the Crimson Door's hint translates to, the number of items destroyed cannot exceed 1, equivalent to each of us having 1 chance to make a mistake. Suppose you break 2 things, and neither is the Ghost's true form. In that case, the Crimson Door will completely release the Ghost's restrictions on you. It will immediately find you and kill you. Hearing this, Ning Chu Shui became slightly more serious. He originally thought they had 2 or 3 chances to make mistakes. Now it seemed the 4th Crimson Door had very low tolerance for them. After discussing the night watch shifts, the group dispersed to rest. The night passed without incident. Soon, the dawn of the 2nd day broke. People on the open ground yawned, quickly waking up. The first thing they did was check the head count. 17 people. It seemed no one else died last night. This indicated that Ghost's attacks on them also had limitations. Once everyone was fully awake, they quickly discussed the day's schedule. Among them, 6 people firmly refused to proceed with filming. These 6 were Ning Shoshui's group of 4, plus the girl named Jun Tiao Tiao from yesterday and her friend. Filming isn't just risky for you few. Everyone is taking risks filming. For you to sit back and reap the rewards like this, isn't that too selfish? Someone in the crowd insinuated. Bai Xiao replied, Of course we won't just sit idle either. While you're filming, we'll search the old mansion. If we can find some items relatively similar to the Ghost's true form, we'll collect them and then publicly handle them. That person wouldn't let it go. Who knows if you're really searching or just sneaking off somewhere to slack? There are so many items in this old house. If you just randomly grab some later to deal with everyone, we wouldn't know either. That's right. You're too selfish. The door's difficulty is already very high, and now we encounter freeloaders within the team like you. It's disgusting. Bai Xiao frowned, about to retort, when she heard Jun Tiao Tiao, who had strong fighting spirit, say, Freeloaders then freeloaders. If you're annoyed, you don't have to film either. Who's forcing you? There are still 17 of us now. If some die, others can film to supplement their scripts. There are still 7 more days. I really don't understand what you're rushing for. You clearly know filming could be dangerous, yet still want to risk your lives. Why not go find the Ghost's true form first? Jun Tiao Tiao was truly fed up with these people. In the crowd, a tall, burly man sneered coldly. Find the Ghost's true form? Anyone with a bit of intelligence wouldn't say something so stupid. There are no clues at all, and you still want to go find the ghost's true form. There are so many things in this old house. Are you planning to turn over every single one? Besides, the Crimson Door has restrictions on us. The two sides held very different views. Jun Tiao Tiao, Ning Chu Shui, and the other 6 believed they should first find a way to locate and destroy the ghost's true form, and only then film. But the remaining 11 people didn't think so. At least most of them felt they should take advantage of everyone still being alive, quickly finish filming, and leave immediately. After all, the number of people the ghost can kill within the Crimson Door is limited. It can't possibly kill all of them in one day, right? Therefore, from this perspective, finishing all the script content in one day was the best and fastest way to pass this trial. After a round of arguing, with neither side persuading the other, everyone could only disperse unhappily. Ning Chu Shui and the others entered the old mansion to investigate, searching for props that could be the ghost's true form, while the rest continued filming according to the script. Upon entering the old mansion, Ning Chu Shui and the others immediately felt a slight chill. They didn't know if it was their imagination or not. Passing through a long, narrow path, they arrived at a small courtyard, divided into a main hall and side rooms. To the left, right, and center of the courtyard was a dried-up well. The area around the well was covered in green moss. The 4 of them passed by, using the daylight to peer inside, only seeing a pile of rubble and green frogs, nothing else. This scene was used to film the 4th scene, also the place where the first supporting male character dies. The script said that the 4 people living in these 2 rooms suddenly heard something crying in the old well at night, so they went out to check, and were then pulled down and killed by something from within the old well. The script didn't specify what was hiding in the old well, but none of the 4 wanted to get close to that dry well. They simply searched the area for a while before heading towards the firewood shed at the back. As soon as they stepped into the firewood shed, Ning Chu Shui suddenly wrinkled his nose. This room had the smell of fresh blood. Although very faint because the room wasn't ventilated, he could still smell it. Following the scent of blood, he went to a small room within the firewood shed filled with household items, opened the door, and found it had been cleaned up inside. There was also a large amount of food, water, and canvas tents piled up. Damn, so they weren't lying. Meng Long Company sent people to survey the terrain early on and even prepared so many things for us. Feng Yu was slightly surprised. He squeezed into the room, bending down to look closely. It really is stuff bought by Meng Long Company. It even has their special mark on it. Wipe a bit, see if there's any ash. Ning Chu Shui reminded Feng Yu. He was stunned for a moment, then nodded slightly. Got it. Feng Yu extended a finger, lightly wiping it over these objects, noticing most had very little dust. No ash, they were indeed piled up recently. Ning Chu Shui frowned. He switched on the flashlight function on his hand, sweeping it through the gaps between the pile of goods as if searching for something. What are you looking for? Bai Xiao Xiao asked softly. Ning Chu Shui only replied with one word, blood. There's the smell of fresh blood here, though very faint. Because the ventilation isn't great, you can still catch a hint of it. Ning Chu Shui searched around here for a while. After confirming there were no bloodstains, he returned to the firewood shed. Finally, Ning Chu Shui discovered that near the stove, the clay there had a different color from other places. Because this place had no light, it was very dark, making it hard to detect. Ning Chu Shui thought for a moment, then suddenly said, "Something's wrong." The 3 moved closer, Feng Yu's eyes filled with curiosity. What's wrong, Brother Chu Shui? Ning Chu Shui's gaze was sharp. The people who came to this old house before weren't killed by ghosts. Huh? Why? Ning Chu Shui pointed at the bloodstains on the ground, and the 3 immediately reacted. If those people who came for the terrain survey were killed by the ghost in the old house, then after 3 days, their blood and bodies shouldn't still be here. When we entered, if you paid close attention, you'd notice the bloodstains Director Zheng Chao left on the earthen wall last night have completely disappeared. This shows that after the ghost kills them, it also cleans up the bodies and bloodstains. But now there's still such a large pool of blood on the ground, yet no flesh fragments at all. This indicates the person who died here wasn't killed by a ghost. At least not by the scissor-wielding ghost we saw last night. The three recalled what happened last night, their expressions changing. Immediately after, Mengjun took out a small black flashlight from somewhere, shining it on the ground. He's right, there are traces of something heavy being dragged on the ground, indicating these people were dragged elsewhere after being killed. A ghost wouldn't leave such traces. Although their footprints had disturbed the original traces on the ground, Mengjun's sharp eyes could still discern what had happened here before. After putting away the flashlight, Mengjun looked at Ningqiu Shui with a changed gaze. Earlier, Bai Xiao had told them this person was not simple. Now witnessing it firsthand, he felt Ningqiu Shui was different from ordinary newcomers. This kind of keen ability to observe the environment and grasp information even many veterans couldn't match. So, the people who came for the terrain survey 3 days ago weren't killed by ghosts? Feng Yu wore an expression full of surprise. Damn, besides ghosts, what else here could kill people? Could there be a murderer hiding on this mountain? He recalled the movie Deadly Fork he'd watched before. The psychological shadows left by those brutal cannibals hadn't faded yet. Cannibals are very unlikely, perhaps some large animals, possibly mountain lions. The time to ambush and deal with 4 people. If it's not a tiger, I'm afraid it'll be a bear. Mengjun's expression didn't lighten in the slightest. They had entered without carrying any weapons on them. If they really encountered a bear, it would still be manageable. They could still run. But if they carelessly caught the eye of a full-grown mountain tiger, then I'm afraid it would be just like meeting a ghost. They weren't the superheroes from TV dramas. What were the odds of a few unarmed people killing a large tiger? Almost zero. Wait, if that's the case, doesn't it mean the entity of the ghost creature isn't necessarily something inside the old house? It could also be the filming equipment we brought from outside. Feng Yu was momentarily stunned, muttering to himself. Thinking about it that way, it's not impossible, because that ghost appeared right after we started filming. As soon as he finished speaking, from the courtyard not far away, a blood-curdling scream suddenly rang out. Damn it! Help! The 4 of them's expressions changed, and they immediately ran towards the source of the sound. But when they passed through the arched gate of the firewood shed and stepped into that courtyard, they all simultaneously stopped. The scene before their eyes sent a chill down their spines. When they passed through the arched gate of the firewood shed into the courtyard, they clearly heard that person's cries for help. But they were coming from the bottom of the well. The eaves of this courtyard had no foliage for cover. Although the sky was now overcast, seemingly about to rain, the light was still ample. The dry well in the middle of the courtyard also had nothing obscuring it. It was clearly visible, and there was no slippery mud around it. An ordinary person, how could they possibly fall into the well? Help! Save me! Please save me! Hurry and save me! The cries for help from the bottom of the well grew increasingly desperate, making listeners' hearts race and legs tremble. Feng Yu was silent for a moment, gritted his teeth, and was about to step forward to help, but was stopped by Ningqiu Shui. He turned to look at Ningqiu Shui, who shook his head at him. Ningqiu Shui mouthed 3 words to him, causing Feng Yu to break out in a cold sweat instantly. Not human. Only then did Feng Yu suddenly remember. When they ran over, there were basically no footsteps. Even if there were, they couldn't possibly carry all the way to the bottom of a well that far. How did the person at the bottom of the well know they had arrived here? One must realize that his cry for help just now was, "Please, you all, save me." Thinking of this, Feng Yu couldn't help but shudder. If Ningqiu Shui hadn't stopped him just now, if he had gone over, what would have happened at this very moment? The 4 of them looked at the dry well that kept emitting desperate cries and screams, and retreated step by step. Once they left the courtyard, they immediately turned and ran like mad, not looking back at all. My God, does this thing dare to kill people even in broad daylight? Feng Yu was terrified. Bai Xiao said, Ghosts and monsters killing people in broad daylight in the world beyond the Crimson Door aren't all that common. Besides, Where we are seems about to rain. Look at the dark clouds getting thicker and thicker. I estimate in another hour or two, even if it doesn't rain, there won't be much light left on the mountain either. Light. Feng Yu looked up at the sky. It was indeed like that. Although the mountain wasn't completely dark right now, it could already be described as gloomy, a gloom that made people's hearts uneasy. As they ran farther away, the cries for help from the dry well behind them vanished. Damn it, this place is too sinister. Feng Yu panted heavily. His stamina seemed slightly inferior to the other three. Just as he steadied his heartbeat and looked up, he noticed the expressions of the other three were somewhat off. What's wrong? Ning Shui's expression was serious. He raised his hand and pointed toward the arched gate ahead. Feng Yu followed the direction of his finger and immediately froze. Beyond that arched gate, on the open ground, there was suddenly a dry well. This is the courtyard from just now. Damn it, did we come back? Feng Yu's mouth hung open. The voice of Ning Shui beside him carried an indescribable gravity. Yes, we came back. Brother Chu Shui, you were leading just now. How did you lead us in a circle? I wasn't going in circles. I was running toward the gate of the old house. After Ning Shui finished speaking, Bai Xiao chimed in. The direction we were running just now was indeed toward the gate of the old house. Seeing Bai Xiao say the same, Feng Yu couldn't help but swallow hard. At that moment, from within the dry well beyond the arched gate ahead, a voice filled with intense resentment suddenly rang out. Why didn't you save me? Why didn't you save me? You clearly could have saved me, but you chose to stand by and watch. My death is all because of you. Now, all of you come down and keep me company. As the voice fell, a deathly pale arm, devoid of any blood, suddenly reached out and gripped the edge of the dry well. Seeing this scene, none of the four dared to stay put. They turned and fled like mad once again. But in less than a minute, they found themselves back in the same place, and this time, two pale arms had appeared on the well's edge. The thing inside seemed to be gradually climbing up from the bottom of the well. Seeing this, Feng Yu felt his mouth go dry. He had rarely experienced crimson doors before, and with Bai Xiao and Meng Jun leading the way previously, his mental fortitude wasn't well trained. Now, encountering this major trouble, he couldn't help but panic. Damn it! So do we run again? He looked at the three standing still and asked in a trembling voice. At that moment, Ning Shui suddenly spoke. Something's not right. That thing can't attack us right now. Run toward it, quickly. After saying this, Ning Shui took the lead and ran straight toward the dry well. Bai Xiao and Meng Jun exchanged a glance, gripping the ghost artifacts on their persons and followed behind Ning Shui. If something really happened, they at least had something to rely on. Since they were going, Feng Yu naturally wouldn't be left behind. He also took out a special ghost artifact and wrapped it around his head, following behind them. As they ran past that dry well, everyone held their breath, their heartbeats seemingly stopping. They saw the thing in the well. It was a man with deathly pale skin all over. His face wore a bizarre smile, his eye sockets sunken and empty, devoid of eyes, like two bottomless black holes. The most terrifying part was its mouth, which was holding a small, blood-stained pair of scissors. This thing was the very ghost that had killed their director, Zheng Chao, last night. The ghost, still trying to crawl out, made that sound. Feng Yu, running last, seemed to have been too frightened earlier. For some reason, a surge of anger rose in his heart. As he passed by, he even spat a mouthful of saliva at the ghost in the well. That spit landed directly in the ghost's mouth, causing the smile on its face to seem to freeze solid. They ran straight through this courtyard, heading towards the gate of the ancient house. This time, the four of them did not fall into the loop again. When they ran out of the main gate of the ancient house, all four felt as if they had been reborn. Of course, they didn't truly believe the outside was safe. But at least, outside, it wasn't just the four of them. Looking back, the ghost inside the ancient house did not chase them out. Damn, Ning Shui, Shui Ge, you're really amazing. How did you know running in that direction would work? Feng Yu patted Ning Shui's shoulder, panting, speaking with a mix of admiration. Ning Shui shook his head. I didn't know either. I just guessed, tried it out. Judging from last night's situation, if that thing could act, it would have attacked us long ago. It wouldn't just lie by the well mouth scaring us. It scaring us probably has two reasons. First, it genuinely can't come out for now. Second, it doesn't want us to escape along the correct path. I just tried it, didn't expect to be right. Bai Xiaoxiao's gaze softened as she whispered to Mengjun beside her. See, I told you bringing Ningqiu Shui wasn't wrong. He really is very capable. Mengjun nodded slightly. Having such a teammate by his side, his psychological pressure wasn't as heavy as before. Damn, I really don't want to go into that ancient house again. Seriously, found nothing, almost lost my life. Feng Yu was still scared, catching his breath, when he noticed the people gathered around the computer on the open ground in the distance seemed strange. The atmosphere among them seemed a bit tense. There were a total of 7 people gathered around the computer. They were staring intently at the playback footage on the computer screen, their expressions all carrying an indescribable tension. So focused were they didn't even notice Ningqiu Shui and the other 3 running out from the ancient house gate. Ningqiu Shui and the others quickly sensed their abnormality and immediately walked over. Hey, what's going on? Feng Yu spoke up to ask. The 7 people around the computer looked at him but didn't answer. In their eyes, there was a hint of exclusion, seemingly somewhat annoyed with the group's earlier refusal to cooperate with filming. Weren't you guys going to find the ghost's true form? Why did you come back empty-handed? A woman among the crowd spoke like this, her voice carrying 3 parts sarcasm and 7 parts coldness. As soon as these words were spoken, the atmosphere among everyone grew even colder. Wanted to go find it, but ran into the ghost. Ningqiu Shui wasn't too concerned about the other party's coldness. Seeing that Ningqiu Shui seemed to have something to say, a few people softened their cold expressions and proactively asked, "Where? How did you encounter the ghost?" A glint flashed in Ningqiu Shui's eyes. "We found some useful clues in that house, but we don't trust you all. Therefore, these clues can only be exchanged. I can tell you part of it first. The 4 people sent by Menglong Company earlier to survey the terrain here have died." Hearing this news, everyone's expressions immediately changed. Died? Ningqiu Shui gave a slight nod. Yes, died. After speaking, he pointed at the computer again. What happened? The young man sitting in front of the computer pushed his glasses up, remained silent for a moment, then said, "Have you all read your scripts?" Ningqiu Shui and the others nodded slightly. "We have." The young man asked in return, "Didn't you find it strange?" 17 actors. Besides the male and female leads, there are 15 other supporting actors. But we're filming a ghost movie. So where's the ghost? The young man's sharp question left Ningqiu Shui and the others stunned. This was a detail-oriented problem. They instinctively considered the ghost to be one of their 17 actors. Even Ningqiu Shui, because he was focused on finding the ghost entity's true form, hadn't realized this. According to the script the director gave them, out of these 17 people, besides the male and female leads, 15 people end up dying. So, where's the ghost? Who plays the ghost? After a few seconds of silence, Feng Yu swallowed hard, his voice trembling slightly. You mean, in a ghost movie script, from the very beginning, no actor was designated as the ghost? Everyone nodded. Then how do you act it out? The voice of the young man sitting at the computer was a bit choked up. How else can we act it out? Of course, we find a brave actor to play the ghost, according to the script. Luckily, this computer and the filming equipment seem to transmit signals wirelessly. Sigh, it's really not normal. Who would have thought such shoddy equipment could perform such advanced operations? Thanks to that, we don't need to go in there with those 4 actors. Even though he said that, there was no trace of gratitude or relief in the man's voice. Anyone with a bit of experience knew that some supernatural force was influencing everything here. This was absolutely not a good thing. Right, what did you want to tell us earlier? The man asked Ningqiu Shui again. Ningqiu Shui said, although the people who came earlier to survey the terrain died, they weren't killed by a ghost. It's very likely they were killed by wild beasts on the mountain. Everyone listened, sinking into thoughtful silence. Not long after Ningqiu Shui finished speaking, another group of actors had found their shooting location according to the script. The scene was inside a room. The window was sealed with a layer of oiled paper. It was already dim outside, and light basically couldn't shine into the room. The 4 actors' hearts were all pounding. No one wanted to do this kind of difficult work, especially those with bad luck. The first group to be sacrificed. But most of those who came here understood in their hearts that vengeful spirits killing people had certain limits. Perhaps that ghost could only kill 3 people per day. As long as the first 3 died, those who came after could film smoothly. They chose to be the first unlucky ones, certainly not out of any noble desire to save others. Rather, after discussion, everyone unanimously decided to give any ghost artifacts and puzzle pieces found in this door to the first filming group. Where there are great rewards, there will always be brave souls. Although they weren't certain they would definitely find puzzle pieces in this door, wherever there were puzzle pieces, there would definitely be ghost artifacts. Tempted by the huge potential gain, a team of 4 finally stepped forward. Entering this gloomy room, all 4 held scripts. They first conducted a simple search of the room, with one person standing guard at the door to prevent it from closing. Focus on searching hidden spots, like under the bed, inside the wardrobe, behind the door. The team leader was a somewhat steady-looking middle-aged man. He gave clear instructions. Only after the 3 team members confirmed no ghost was hiding in the room did he step inside from the doorway. Have you all carefully read the script content? In a moment, Chao Shuang, you go to the wash basin. I will knock on the door from outside. After knocking, I'll leave and hide in the next room. At that point, you push the door open, look left and right a bit. Seeing no one, immediately turn back. Then, Gu Dai will reach out from under the bed and grab the edge of the bed. Finally, Chao Shuang, you scream. Our scene will be considered finished. Understood? All 3 nodded slightly. Mu Sen, holding the camera, was a bit nervous. Actually, this was a very simple scene. They didn't need much time to set up, and there was nothing scary about it. The 3 people in the room shared 1 ghost artifact for self-defense. Team leader Shu Wu outside would use 1 ghost artifact. Everyone was ready to start filming. After the middle-aged man Shu Wu closed the room door, the play was considered to have begun. He reached out and gently knocked on the room door. After 3 knocks, Shu Wu immediately hurried into the next room and locked the door. As this old wooden door locked shut, the room instantly became pitch black. Shu Wu didn't think much of it. He quietly pressed himself against the door crack, allowing him to hear the filming situation outside, even next door. Everything seemed to be proceeding according to the predetermined script. Shu Wu heard the grating sound of friction as the door was pulled open. It seemed that at this moment, Chao Shuang next door had pushed the door open and was checking left and right. Shu Wu listened quietly. He then heard the sound of footsteps. These footsteps seemed to be pacing back and forth. Why hasn't that kid screamed yet? Adding some improvisation for himself. Shu Wu still hadn't heard a scream from next door, and a trace of doubt inevitably rose in his heart. He waited and waited, growing somewhat impatient. Originally, it should have taken only 2 or 3 minutes to finish filming. Now it had already dragged on for 5 minutes. You must understand, this ancient house is far from safe. The longer they stay, the greater the chance they'll encounter that thing. Damn it, what the hell are they doing? Shu Wu cursed under his breath. He reached out, intending to push the door open to see what was happening next door. But as he applied force to push the door, his expression suddenly changed. Shu Wu discovered that the door crack he had deliberately left open had somehow, at some unknown time, closed shut. Thump. In the pitch-black room, the sound of footsteps from earlier rang out again. But this time, the sound wasn't coming from the next room. It was coming from behind him. Just moments ago, his attention had been completely focused on the room next door. Combined with the fact he'd been pressing his head against the door, he had subconsciously assumed all the sounds were coming from there. It wasn't until now, when he tried to push the door open, that he realized the abnormality. The sounds he had just heard were clearly coming from his own room. But he hadn't opened his door just now. So then, where did the sound of a door opening come from? Could it be from the old wardrobe in the room? Thinking of this, Shuwu broke out in goosebumps all over. If the door opening sound just now came from the wardrobe, then what was hiding inside it? And right now, what was that thing constantly pacing back and forth behind him? Shuwu's body began to tremble. He did indeed possess a ghost artifact on his person, but this ghost artifact wasn't very powerful. It could only block a small portion of a ghost's attack. Just a small portion. Just as Shuwu was hesitating whether to try pushing the door open or not, the footsteps behind him suddenly stopped. The entire pitch-black room once again sank into silence. Shuwu did not turn his head to look. He didn't dare to turn around because he didn't know if turning around was one of the death-triggering conditions. Sweat continuously dripped from his palms. Shuwu clenched the sachet tightly. It seemed to be gradually heating up. Just as he gritted his teeth, preparing to risk everything and push the door to leave, the footsteps that had stopped in the corner of the room sounded again and began to move. Thump! 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 This time, the footsteps were no longer hesitant. They were heading straight for him. Realizing this, Shuwu felt a numbness spread across his back, as if countless ants were crawling over his spine, making it impossible for him to stay calm. Had the thing behind him discovered him? Those slow, deliberate footsteps pushed the sense of oppression to its peak. Shuwu smelled the thick stench of death. The fear in his heart exploded at this moment. He gritted his teeth and recklessly lunged towards the door. Bang! 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 Shuwu slammed into the door 3 times, each impact stronger than the last. In the lightless darkness, those terrifying footsteps stopped less than half a meter away from him. It seemed to fall silent again. But Shuwu knew this wasn't because the other party had left or decided to spare him. It was because that thing was being blocked by the ghost artifact on his person. The sachet clenched tightly in his palm was continuously heating up. It felt as if something inside was burning. Shuwu wasn't burned, but his expression was utterly ferocious. He knew this sachet absolutely couldn't help him hold out for much longer. The ghost behind this crimson door was anything but ordinary. He desperately pushed against the door, once, twice, 3 times. Even as his arm ached terribly, his bones feeling like they were about to shatter, Shuwu didn't dare stop for even a moment. Finally, thanks to his relentless persistence, the wooden door before him was pushed open a tiny crack. The not-too-bright light from outside shone in like a lifeline, pulling Shuwu back from the brink of the abyss. Hope flared anew amidst despair, his face filled with joy as he pushed against the door even more desperately. Thud! Thud! Seeing the crack widen, Shuwu could even stick his head out now. But just as he was about to give one final push to escape, the sachet in his hand suddenly turned to dust. Bam! This impact made Shuwu cry out in agony. He felt as if he had just slammed into a steel plate. The door didn't budge an inch, and the thing lurking in the darkness behind him took its final step. Tap! A very light footstep. Immediately after, Shuwu watched in despair as a pair of deathly pale hands reached out from behind him, pressed against the wooden door, and slowly pushed it shut. The light of hope was completely buried. The room was left with only coldness, and a darkness so thick you couldn't see your own hand. At the same time, another spine-chilling sound rang out. Snip! Shuwu felt a chill run down his spine. He knew this sound. It was the sound of scissors cutting through something. What was it cutting? Are you done filming? Yeah, we're done. This scene should be a wrap. Phew, we're really lucky. We didn't run into any ghosts. In the room, the 3 young men breathed sighs of relief. Contrary to their expectations, nothing horrifying had happened. They had completed this scene very smoothly. All right, this scene is done. Let's get out of this old house first and see how things are over there. The 3 pushed the door open and walked to the next room, speaking to the tightly shut door. Doggy, we've finished filming. We're going to head outside first, okay? They waited a moment, but no sound came from inside the room. The 3 exchanged glances, feeling something was off. So, they knocked on the door again. Still no response from inside. This time, they felt something was seriously wrong. Suddenly, pushing the door open, the room inside was pitch black. By the light from the doorway, they saw a large pool of blood and minced flesh on the floor. Damn it! The cameraman was so terrified by this sight that his hands shook, nearly dropping the camera. Everyone followed the trail of blood leading to the old wooden wardrobe in the corner of the room. Outside the wardrobe lay a blood-stained leather shoe. Qiao Shuang swallowed hard. Holy shit, isn't that the team leader's shoe? Could the team leader have... No, impossible. He clearly had a ghost artifact for self-defense. How could there have been no commotion at all and he just got taken out like that? No one wanted to believe what was unfolding before their eyes. Because if Shu Wu really had died inside that wooden wardrobe, then the ghost artifacts in their hands would also become useless. Because the ghost artifacts they held were borrowed from Shu Wu. The ghost artifacts within the Crimson Door possess absolute individuality. Whoever takes one out of the Crimson Door, it belongs to that person. Afterwards, they can only be lent, not given. Once the owner of a ghost artifact dies, all of their ghost artifacts will become ineffective. Qiao Shuang, should we go in and check? The voice of Mu Sen, the cameraman, was unsteady, and the hand holding the camera was trembling even more violently. No, let's go. Hurry up. Qiao Shuang gritted her teeth, beads of sweat already dotting her forehead. Are you kidding? Go in and check? Right now, they don't have anything to defend themselves with. Once they enter that room, if the ghost hiding inside closes the door, they'll be like fish on a chopping block. When the three of them ran out of the old mansion, the people watching the video on the computer at the entrance immediately looked up. What happened? Feng Yu shouted from a distance. The three ran back, panting heavily, frantically reaching the others before stopping, hands on knees, gasping for breath. Seeing their state, the others immediately understood they must have encountered something unclean inside the old mansion. Where's your team leader? The bespectacled young man sitting in front of the computer asked. Qiao Shuang gave a bitter smile. No surprise, he's probably met with trouble. The three recounted their experience from the first scene. After listening, everyone's expressions changed somewhat. It seems things are a bit different from what we imagined. Changchun, the person holding the female lead's script, said quietly, "We're just filming according to the script. The actors might not actually be dead." Meng Jun, who was still very quiet, suddenly spoke up. That's not certain either. After all, in the original script, no one dies in the first scene. In the script, the person who enters the room is just startled by a hand suddenly reaching out from under the bed. A tall, burly man also said, "Right, we still need to observe more. By the way, why didn't you go into that room to confirm the situation? You're already on your fourth time entering the Crimson Door. How could you be so careless?" Gu Meng, who played the ghost under the bed earlier, said somewhat angrily, "Hey, are you speaking without thinking? We don't have any protective ghost artifacts. If that ghost was still in the room at the time and we went in, wouldn't that be walking right into a trap? Do you want us dead that badly?" The man frowned but didn't reply. Ning Chushui looked up at the sky and said, "All right, cooperate a bit. Come with us to that old storage room. Move the tents and food outside. It's about to rain. Getting a little wet ourselves is fine, but if the computers get damaged, none of us will be able to film." Everyone looked at each other. No one refused Ning Chushui's suggestion. The dark clouds overhead gathered into a large mass, seemingly pressing down, enveloping the entire mountaintop. Everyone followed Ning Chushui into the old mansion, quickly reaching the room filled with tents and food. They worked together to move these things out of the old house. After everyone set up the tents, not long after, a light drizzle began to fall. The rain was neither heavy nor light, but it truly caused quite a bit of trouble for everyone. Fortunately, the people from Menglong Company who had come earlier to survey the terrain had left them a lot of supplies, including food, water, and some tools for starting fires and cooking. Jun Tiao, who had previously entered the old house with Ning Chushui to investigate, also returned to the clearing at this moment. The expressions on both their faces weren't very good, clearly indicating they had encountered something inside the old house. This lunch was eaten in silence. The four people with Ning Chushui sat inside their tent, cooking a pot of rice with meat and vegetables for lunch. "Bai Jie, what do we do this afternoon?" Feng Yu, while eating, suddenly asked. Bai Xiao replied, "First, let's see them film the next scene. That scene will have someone die." It's time for the first supporting actress to die. And the more I think about it, based on the clues we have, the ghost's true form isn't necessarily something inside the old house. It could be something we brought with us. Feng Yu stuffed a piece of meat into his mouth, speaking unclearly. Bai Jie, you mean those filming equipment? Bai Xiao shook her head. The crimson door wouldn't give a paradoxical hint. Our cameras and computers definitely aren't the ghost's true form. If we destroy those two things, the mission will be impossible to continue. I'm afraid that after we deal with the ghost in the old house, we won't be able to continue filming, won't complete the mission, and will be trapped here forever until we die. Feng Yu frowned. So, is there a possibility that the Crimson Door's hint is a trap? Bai Xiao said. Impossible. The more difficult the Crimson Door, the more important and useful the hint is for the ghost guests entering it. But under normal circumstances, ghosts cannot be killed. This Crimson Door gives us a way to destroy the ghost, which can only mean one thing. Both Ningqiu Shui and Feng Yu looked at Bai Xiao. Mean what? Bai Xiao's originally charming face suddenly became much more serious. It means the ghost in this Crimson Door will be exceptionally vicious. Normally, a ghost won't kill more than 3 people per day. Most Crimson Doors follow this rule, especially the first 3 doors. Even from the 4th to the 6th door, over 90% are still like that. But this door seems special. The number of people the ghost in this old house kills each day might have no limit. Hearing this, Feng Yu almost dropped the piece of meat he was picking up to his mouth. What the hell, no limit? Bai Xiao said with a slightly uncertain tone. It feels that way, but this kind of ghost isn't completely without limits. It must follow some rule we don't know yet. No one felt Bai Xiao was exaggerating. Both Ningqiu Shui and Feng Yu understood clearly that sometimes the intuition of people who frequently enter Crimson Doors is more useful than evidence. Just like many students good at English, sometimes they might forget some grammar rules, but their language sense is often very accurate. Meng Jun, who had been keeping his head down eating rice the whole time, suddenly spoke. Is it the script? Hearing this, everyone stopped eating. The script. Ah, that's possible. Feng Yu widened his eyes, feeling Meng Jun's idea made a lot of sense. We're filming according to a script. In the script, except for the male and female leads, everyone else dies. If the ghost in the old house kills people according to the script, doesn't that mean the faster we film, the more dangerous it is? No. I have to tell them right now, we can't let them keep filming blindly like this. Just as Feng Yu stood up, a woman's scream came from a nearby canvas tent. Ah! The 4 of them heard the scream, immediately put down their bowls and chopsticks, and ran out into the rain. The others were also startled by the scream. What happened? Don't know. Let's go check! They headed towards the tent where the scream originated. The one who screamed was Changchun. She was curled up in a corner, trembling, her whole body soaked, as if she had just been caught in the rain, and also as if she had just seen something extremely terrifying. Changchun was a person who had entered the Crimson Door without any teammates. After everyone asked for a while, Changchun slowly raised her hand, pointing at the pot boiling vigorously beside her. Everyone looked over and couldn't help but take a step back, their faces turning pale. In that pot, there was a pair of deathly pale human eyes rolling around. These eyes kept rolling, carrying a look of deep resentment, staring right at them. At the same time, Changchun, curled up in the corner, suddenly revealed a sinister smile. Ah! Everyone looked closely and saw her pull out a pair of blood-red scissors from behind her back. This isn't Changchun! Run! Someone shouted, and everyone hurriedly fled. Changchun, holding the scissors, slowly stepped out of the canvas tent, through the hazy curtain of rain, coldly staring at the fleeing people. Everyone frantically ran into the old house. It was raining heavily. The mountain path down had become slippery and steep. If they ran down the mountain, even if the ghost didn't catch up, they might slip and lose their lives. Although inside the old house was equally dangerous, everyone had no other choice. But halfway through their run, Ningqiu Shui and Bai Xiao almost simultaneously turned their heads. They saw the shadowy figure holding scissors in the rain curtain behind them wasn't chasing them, but had disappeared. Something's wrong. Ningqiu Shui suddenly stopped, Wait a moment, he called his 3 teammates. Meng Jun and the others also stopped. What is it? Bai Xiao wiped the rainwater from her face, pushing her soaked bangs back to reveal a smooth forehead. Ning Shui pointed towards the cluster of canvas tents in the distance, saying, "That ghost didn't come to kill us." The 3 looked in the direction he pointed. Indeed, they saw no ghostly figure pursuing them. On the open ground, there was only the sound of pattering rain. That's not right. If it didn't come to kill us, then what did it come for? Feng Yu was bewildered. He shook his long hair, looking quite pitiful. Not to kill us, could it be? Bai Xiao's eyes suddenly lit up, and she exclaimed in panic. Not good. That thing is most likely here to retrieve its original body. First, it scares us all away, then takes its body and hides it. That way, we won't be able to do anything to it. Hearing this, the expressions of the 3 immediately changed. With just one exchanged glance, Ning Shui and the others turned and ran back. This ghost was truly terrifying. It even possessed a certain level of intelligence, understanding the concept of self-preservation. Cautiously returning to the clearing, after searching the spot where the ghost had been, the 4 discovered its shadow had vanished. It hadn't stayed here long, which further confirmed Bai Xiao's earlier speculation. That ghost didn't come to kill. It scared them off, then took its own body and hid it. This is bad. Now that it's taken and hidden its body, how are we supposed to find it? This mountain is so vast. Even if it doesn't hide it on the mountain, just tossing it into some hidden corner of the old house, we'd never find it. Feng Yu clutched his head and groaned, his face gloomy. He had never encountered such a cunning ghost. Not only could they not defeat it, but they were also outsmarted by it. Feng Yu couldn't accept it. He found it too hard to accept. Ning Shui and the other 2 didn't reply, but their grave expressions showed they shared Feng Yu's thoughts. Suddenly, Ning Shui thought of something. He walked to the tent where the ghost had appeared earlier and carefully looked inside. The eyeballs in the pot were gone, but in a corner of the tent, there was still a puddle of stagnant water. That was where the ghost had just passed through. Water? Ning Shui's eyes suddenly narrowed, a sharp glint flashing within. He said to the 3 beside him, "You all stand guard at the entrance for me. I want to go inside and check." Bai Xiao nodded. "Be careful." Feng Yu also said worriedly, "You really have to be careful, Chu Shui-ji. Inside there." Before he could finish, Ning Shui had already stepped into the tent. He carefully examined the area where the ghost had passed through earlier. After finishing, Ning Shui stepped out of the tent. "Did you find anything?" Bai Xiao stared at him intently. Ning Shui looked towards the distant gate of the old house, where a few figures who had reacted were now heading their way. "Let's go back to our tent first. I'll tell you all later." They returned to their spot. Inside the tent were towels prepared specifically for them. They dried their hair, then took off their jackets, placing them near the fire to slowly dry. Feng Yu caught sight of Bai Xiao's waist, and his eyes lit up. "Damn, Bai Ji, how did you train your waist like that?" "Teach me. My older sister wants a waist like yours too. She was even considering rib removal surgery for a smaller waist before." Bai Xiao shot him a sidelong glance, her tone carrying a hint of teasing. "Be careful. If you get worked up later, no one's going to help you deal with it." Feng Yu coughed dryly twice. Beside him were also 2 robust men, but Meng Jun was like a piece of wood staring intently at the flames, lost in thought. Ning Shui was even more peculiar, his brows constantly furrowed. "By the way, Chu Shui Ge, what were you checking when you went into the tent alone earlier?" Feng Yu asked. When Ning Shui snapped out of his thoughts and saw everyone's eyes focused on him, he said, "Checking the water." "Water? Ning Shui explained. "Didn't you notice? That tent was completely intact, but right where the ghost was standing, there was a puddle of stagnant water. Earlier, its body was also soaking wet." Only after Ning Shui's reminder did they react. Not long before, when they reached the tent entrance and saw Changchun inside, they noticed she was drenched from the rain. At the time, no one thought much of it, as their attention was completely captured by Changchun's finger and the eyes rolling in the pot. This isn't strange either. Maybe the ghost got wet from the rain on its way from the old house." It's perfectly reasonable, logical even. Feng Yu scratched his still damp hair. Ning Chushui shook his head. What you say makes sense, but combined with Baijie's earlier speculation, think about it again. Feng Yu fell silent for a moment, then suddenly looked up, a flash of excitement in his eyes. It's its true form. Its true form got wet in the rain. It's been so long and it never appeared to retrieve its true form. It only suddenly appeared after the rain started. This indicates the ghost's true form cannot come into contact with rain. At the very least, it can't be soaked in water for long. Having figured this out, the thoughts of the four became much clearer. Bai Xiaoxiao bit her lip and suddenly said, "If that's the case, could it be the script? Is the ghost's true form the script? What they brought wasn't actually much. Or rather, what the late director Zheng Chao brought was very little. Apart from the necessary filming equipment and some batteries, only the scripts and some pens for revising the scripts remained. Pens certainly aren't afraid of water. Only paper and batteries could be. If the ghost's true form isn't the batteries, then it must be the scripts in their hands. That's not right. The script doesn't make sense either. Each of us keeps our own script. At the very least, we wouldn't leave it out in the rain. That thing wouldn't get wet." Just when they thought they had uncovered the truth, Mengjun's words plunged them back into doubt. That was indeed true. The scripts were distributed to them by the director. Even though they felt these things were useless, everyone kept them very well. Clearly, with the canvas tents available, it was highly unlikely anyone would throw their script outside to get soaked by the rain. "I'll go confirm something. Everyone else has probably returned by now." Mengjun stood up and left the tent alone. Not long after, he returned, soaked through. But Mengjun's expression was somewhat unpleasant. "Just as we thought earlier, everyone's scripts are well preserved. Changchun isn't dead either. She was just terrified at the time and ran to another team's tent." Hearing Mengjun's words, everyone fell silent. An important clue had just been grasped, only to suddenly break off again. Could their line of thinking be flawed? The ghost's true form? Wasn't it the script? Ning Chushui stared at the fire inside the tent, not uttering a word. He always felt he had overlooked something crucial, but for the moment, he couldn't recall what he had missed. In this short single day, too many things had happened, leaving the information in his mind somewhat chaotic. Due to the heavy rain's impact, even those who had been eager to film were now hiding in their own tents, not daring to run around outside. The good news was their location on the mountaintop meant no matter how heavy the rain, water couldn't accumulate. At least they wouldn't die from a sudden natural disaster. "Aren't they filming anymore?" Feng Yu lifted the tent flap, smiling faintly. Ning Chushui said, "Actually, they could still film in this weather. Many places in the old house are dilapidated and leaky, but the computer can be set up in the tent. It's wireless anyway. The cameras aren't afraid of rain. Perhaps the reason they don't want to continue filming is simply because this rain is truly too cold." Inside the tent, all three agreed with Ning Chushui's opinion. Fortunately, they still had enough alcohol to light a fire. They quickly dried themselves, then used a pot to collect rainwater from outside, boiling a large pot of hot water to drink slowly. Their bodies gradually warmed up. They all put their clothes back on. This rain was truly heavy and bitterly cold. Everyone silently understood not to bring up filming again. They were all waiting for the rain to stop. Perhaps because of this rain, the terrifying ghost in the old house had temporarily stopped appearing. Maybe, like everyone else, it didn't like this rain either. Unnoticed, night had fallen. Should we take turns keeping watch in groups of 4 or in pairs? Pairs are better. If an emergency arises, we can support each other. Mengjun finished speaking, paused briefly, then added, "I'll take the first watch. Who will join me?" Feng Yu hurriedly raised his hand. Me! Junge, I'll go with you." Ning Chushui glanced at Feng Yu with slight surprise. Bai Xiaoxiao beside him leaned closer, whispering into Ning Chushui's ear, "Mengjun has saved his life twice. Sticking with Mengjun makes him feel safe." Hearing Bai Xiaoxiao say this, Ning Chushui understood. If someone had saved his life twice in a row, that person would make him feel safe too. The two rested in the tent until midnight, when Mengjun and Feng Yu woke them. They sat up, stepped out of the tent and took over the remaining half of the night watch. I'm truly sorry for dragging you into such a terrifying crimson door. Bai Xiaoxiao sighed softly. Ning Qushui didn't blame her, nor did he pretend it was fine. He looked at Bai Xiaoxiao, bathed in moonlight. Even though her lipstick had been washed away by the rain, her full lips still held a captivating allure. In the second crimson door, I owed you a favor. Now it's just repaid. Ning Qushui said. Bai Xiaoxiao laughed. You saved me once already. If we must talk about repaying favors, you already did back then. After speaking, she pursed her lips slightly, a bit embarrassed. Although her head had separated from her body at that time, her consciousness hadn't vanished. She still remembered Ning Qushui taking off her pants. The two fell silent for a moment. Ning Qushui suddenly asked, By the way, Sister Bai, you're very powerful in the outside world, right? Bai Xiaoxiao was startled, a faint, not-so-kind smile flashing across her face. What is it, Qushui? Do you need my help with something? Ning Qushui rubbed his nose. Could you help me investigate someone, or help me look into a map? Bai Xiaoxiao didn't refuse. A small matter, but let's wait until we get out of here alive. Ning Qushui nodded. Outside the tent, the rain continued to fall. There was no sign of it stopping. It seemed precisely because of this rain that everyone could enjoy a rare, comfortable period free from ghostly disturbances. The two sat at the tent entrance, chatting idly, gradually becoming more familiar. Bai Xiaoxiao discovered that Ning Qushui wasn't as cold as he appeared. He was just good at hiding his emotions, disliking revealing his inner thoughts through expressions. Ning Qushui also realized that Bai Xiaoxiao wasn't as mature as he'd imagined. She sometimes told some rather naive and humorous jokes. After chatting for a while, Ning Qushui's earlier chaotic thoughts gradually dissipated, and he calmed down, no longer in such disarray. Finally, he remembered what he had overlooked. I remember now, he suddenly muttered, causing Bai Xiaoxiao beside him to be taken aback. What did you remember, Qushui? Ning Qushui slowly turned his head, staring intently at Bai Xiaoxiao, enunciating each word. That ghost's true form is the script. The two looked at each other for about 5 seconds before Bai Xiaoxiao asked, What do you mean? Ning Qushui's gaze sharpened. Sister Bai, do you remember when we first entered this crimson door? Director Zheng Chao was on the phone? Bai Xiaoxiao nodded slightly. She had always been a very meticulous woman. The moment she entered the crimson door and regained consciousness, she had begun paying attention to everything around her. Of course, she had also noted the content of Zheng Chao's call at that time. I remember. Why? Ning Shui slowly recounted what Director Zheng Chao had said during that call. Yes. The script has been chosen. A friend gave me a new script earlier and told me that my old filming props needed to be replaced. Ning Qushui directly extracted 2 key pieces of information. Bai Xiaoxiao immediately understood. A friend gave a new script, so Director Zheng Chao has 2 scripts? Ning Qushui nodded slightly. Exactly. The appearance of that ghost almost confirms this speculation. All our scripts were placed inside the tents. Only the director's belongings were left outside. The script was printed on paper, which is why it feared the rainwater. The director has 2 scripts. One of them was copied into 17 copies and given to each of us. But in reality, this film is very likely not being shot according to the script we're holding. Ning Qushui's eyes flashed with a hint of madness. In our script, we are a group of explorers coming to the old house, but in the new script that the director's friend gave him, we are filmmakers coming to the old house. This is a very classic manipulation. The director was supposed to use his friend's script, but didn't tell us the truth, to create a more realistic feeling. The 4 people who came to survey the terrain in the old house earlier might have been arranged by the director or the Menglong Company to play the role of ghosts in the old house. But due to some unforeseen circumstances, they actually died here. Otherwise, if they were still alive, we would definitely have encountered them in the old house. After listening, Bai Xiaoxiao murmured, Thinking about it that way, it's not impossible. But Director Zheng Chao and his friend probably didn't expect that under the influence of the Crimson Door, that new script would turn into a real ghost. Ning Qushui was silent for a moment, then said, Bai Jie, I have to correct your viewpoint a bit. Perhaps that friend of the director knew that this new script was a ghost. Bai Xiao was slightly startled, then looked up. He knew? Possibly. Ning Shui seemed to sense her doubt and slowly voiced a possibility that sent a chill down Bai Xiao's spine. A person who can become the director's friend and easily hand him a script, isn't it very likely that he is another director? What if he has a third script? What if, in that third script, including the director and the cameraman, including the 4 people who went up the mountain to survey the terrain for us and later went missing, all of them are actors in the script? A script within a script. Bai Xiao felt this line of thought was terrifying. However, this is just my speculation, and it doesn't help our survival much. After all, we just need to find the ghost's true form. After speaking, Ning Shui gazed into the distant curtain of rain, at the old house shrouded in darkness. That old house was the only place that could store the script. The trees on this mountain had dense foliage, but the area under the trees definitely couldn't shelter from the rain. Only the tiled roof of the old house could. This rain was like a reminder from the crimson door to them. It not only indirectly told them what the ghost's true form was, but also helped them narrow down the search area. By the next morning, the rain gradually lightened, shifting from a downpour to a drizzle. The 4 of them sat in the tent, eating breakfast. During this time, Ning Shui told the other 2 about his speculations and discoveries regarding the path to survival from the previous night. Feng listened and became somewhat excited. Amazing, you guys are really something. This is great. Not only do we know what the ghost's true form is, but we've also determined the search area. After that, we just need to mobilize the others and we'll quickly find the ghost's true form in the old house and destroy it. Once that happens, everyone will be safe and we can film however we want. After his excitement, Feng quickly noticed the expressions on the other 3 faces. A bit heavy, with no joy at the prospect of leaving this place. Hey, what's wrong with you all? Why aren't you saying anything? We're just 1 step away from success. This is a good thing. Bai Xiao said slowly. I'm afraid this might not necessarily be a good thing. You underestimate the wickedness of the human heart, Feng. Puzzle pieces and ghost artifacts are often related to the truth and can be a path to survival. Right now, there are many wolves and little meat. If you openly tell others the path to survival, and they find that scenario while also discovering a ghost artifact or puzzle piece nearby, wouldn't we be at a great disadvantage? You must know that in the Crimson Door, anything can be taken by force, but only ghost artifacts and puzzle pieces cannot be forcibly taken. If someone gets those 2 things first and refuses to let go, we'll have no way to get them. Pausing for a moment, Bai Xiao's cute face suddenly turned gloomy and cold. Of course, this is still just the ideal scenario. If some malicious person gets that ghost's true form, guess what? What will he do? At this point, Bai Xiao stepped a bit closer. Her cold expression made Feng involuntarily retreat half a step. What would he do? Mengjun coldly continued. He will hide the ghost's true form and use it to control the ghost general. Then, he just needs to lead the remaining people to quickly complete the main storyline mission. The bus will appear to take us back. His voice lowered, but the others won't be able to return. He will let the ghost kill everyone except himself. It's very likely the ghost's killing restriction is tied to completing the scenario. Completing the scenario means the ghost no longer has any killing restrictions. Finally, after letting the ghost kill all the others, he will destroy the ghost's true form. This way, he not only has more time to find that puzzle piece and ghost artifact, but when leaving the Crimson Door, he will also be rewarded with an additional, hard-to-obtain ghost artifact belonging to the 4th Crimson Door fragment. The Lone Survivor Rule. As Mengjun slowly finished his analysis, Feng behind him was drenched in cold sweat. Never overestimate anyone's morality. 2 ghost artifacts and 1 puzzle piece in this mist world. It really could drive someone mad. Don't overestimate the human heart. This was the advice given to Feng by Bai Xiao and Mengjun, 2 veterans who frequently entered and exited the Crimson Door. It was also advice for Ning Shui. The danger within the Crimson Door doesn't only come from the ghosts in the story, but also from one's own companions. Many people who die in the Crimson Door, even at the moment of their demise, don't know whether they were killed by a ghost or by a person. The words of Meng Jun and Bai Xiao were like 2 buckets of cold water poured over Feng Yu, jolting him awake. In the Crimson Door, you don't have to harm others, but you absolutely must not fail to guard against others. It's best not to tell anyone about Chu Shui's speculations from last night. This is a matter of life and death for you, Xiao Yu. Bai Xiao winked at Feng Yu, making him shudder. Feng Yu swallowed dryly and hurriedly said, "Don't worry, I promise I won't say anything." He was genuinely frightened by Meng Jun's words from earlier. In the real world, there were plenty of people who would go crazy for money, let alone within the Crimson Door where there were no laws to bind them. No one knew what monstrous forms people might take in this place. They could only remain silent. After finishing the snacks, Feng Yu sprawled out inside the canvas tent, hands behind his head, staring at the tent ceiling. Sigh. Are we just gonna wait like this? Ning Chu Shui sat at the tent entrance, his gaze fixed on the other tents in the distant clearing. Of course not. Those people are about to lose their patience. They'll resume filming. As soon as they start, we'll enter the old house to search for the script. Currently, it seems the ghost cannot split itself. I think if there's a script causing interference, it will prioritize killing the people filming. But it's hard to say. At least entering the old house won't be just us. The safety level will be slightly higher. Sure enough, not long after, the people in the distant clearing, those who were always eager to film, began to grow a bit restless. They believed the ghost's killings were related to time. The longer they dragged it out, the more dangerous it became for them. Completing the filming earlier would benefit everyone. However, after last night's incident, they weren't certain if the ghost was killing according to a time-based pattern. If they had held firm to their belief, yesterday after the rain, they wouldn't have stopped, but would have continued filming at an even faster pace. Clearly, these people's willpower wasn't that steadfast. Their hearts were also wavering, hesitant, and indecisive. But things had already reached this point. They had no reason to retreat unless there was clear evidence proving them wrong. Soon, the second team was formed. They wrapped the script in rain-proof clothing and hurriedly ran into the old house. Seeing them enter, Ning Chu Shui and the others also set off. Inside another small tent under the curtain of rain, Jun Tiao stood with hands on hips, observing everyone. Watching the retreating figures of Ning Chu Shui's group of 4, she frowned and said, "Why are they going in there?" The man behind her heard this and also sat up. Who? This man's name was Geng Hu, a client who had hired Jun Tiao to guide him through this door. Jun Tiao replied, "Bai Xiao and the others. These 4 people. I remember they weren't participating in the filming before. Why are they running into the old house now?" Hearing the name Bai Xiao, the man immediately remembered. It was hard for him not to remember. In a crowd, most men would notice a beautiful woman first. It was an instinct etched into their genes. "Who knows? Maybe they changed their minds again," the man replied casually. Jun Tiao fell silent for a moment, then started biting her nails again. "I feel something's off. These people seem quite experienced. They were very decisive in refusing to film from the start. Now they suddenly enter the old house. They must have discovered something. I want to follow and see. Are you coming?" The man glanced at the curtain of rain. The house stood silently in the hazy drizzle, looking particularly terrifying. He felt something watching him in the darkness. "No, I'm not going. I'll wait here." The man shivered as he spoke. Jun Tiao didn't force him. After all, this man was her client. If she could safely escort him out of this Crimson Door, she would receive a large sum of money, enough to live lavishly for several months in the outside world. "All right, then I'll go take a look. You'd better stay with the others. It's much safer that way." After saying this, Jun Tiao covered her head with her hand and ran into the gloomy old house. Oh no! Not long after entering the old house, Feng Yu suddenly slapped his forehead. "I forgot to bring the script. Sister Bai was walking last and didn't even remind me. It's in our tent, right? No one took it, did they?" Bai Xiao didn't answer. Ning Shui smiled and said, "It's fine. Those things were useless anyway. If they're lost, they're lost." Feng Yu breathed a sigh of relief. "Okay, if Brother Chu Shui says so." They arrived at a small courtyard that was relatively intact. The rooms here were mostly... In the center of the courtyard stood an old locust tree, very tall, very large, and very dense, and of course very dark. Large raindrops continuously fell from the old locust tree. 3 rooms in total, 2 people per group. Search the sides first, then the middle. If you find anything wrong, immediately shout to alert the others. Mengjun didn't waste time, quickly divided the teams, and led Feng Yu into the room on the left. Ning Shui and Bai Xiao entered the room on the right. After entering, Bai Xiao, who was behind, suddenly revealed a strange smile. She reached behind her back, then slowly pulled out a red pair of scissors from her back pocket. Ning Shui in front remained calm, silently reaching a hand inside his clothes. There, an ancient book was still pressed against his chest. "Are you that afraid of us finding that script?" Ning Shui slowly turned around to face the Bai Xiao before him. Bai Xiao's face wore a strange smile, very gentle, yet it sent chills down one's spine. This seemed to be a sign of ghosts. Once they see their prey, they smile. Bai Xiao didn't speak. Unlike the ghosts born from human resentment they had encountered before, the ghost before them could not communicate, but Ning Shui was certain it could understand his words. Because after he finished speaking, he clearly saw a flash of cold killing intent in Bai Xiao's eyes as it lunged straight at him. Ning Shui didn't dodge. He hurriedly took out the ancient book from his chest to block. The sharp red scissors cut into the ancient book, leaving only a crack. Fresh blood seeped from the crack. Immediately after, a miserable scream erupted from the ancient book, the sound unbearably piercing. Ning Shui, holding the book, felt his eardrums were about to burst. Ah! Along with the ancient book's miserable scream, it suddenly flipped open on its own. A ferocious, blood-soaked skull emerged from the book. Ning Shui recognized this skull. It was the skull of the old witch Nguyen. The blood-soaked skull crawled out from the ancient book, biting down hard on Bai Xiao's neck. Immediately after, Bai Xiao's body grew faint, transforming into an eyeless man. It frantically stabbed the scissors into the skull, biting its neck, a pained expression on its face. This ancient book is so powerful, it can directly harm a ghost from the 4th door. Ning Shui was slightly surprised. A few days ago, he had researched various types of exorcism artifacts. Most ghost artifacts were of the passive type, with restraining or defensive effects. Offensive-capable ghost artifacts were extremely rare, and their effects were very limited. Only a small number of exorcism artifacts could inflict damage on ghosts. Although they couldn't kill the ghost, this type of artifact could help the user buy time. Seeing the blood-soaked skull had been stabbed to pieces, Ning Shui knew the scissor-wielding ghost was about to break free from the restraint. He kicked it away with a powerful kick, then ran to Mengjun and Feng Yu's room and knocked on the door. "Run now!" No further words were needed. The 2 of them had also seen the terrifying ghost at the door of the opposite room. The 3 of them hurriedly ran out of the courtyard. "What happened?" Feng Yu asked fearfully. "Where's Sister Bai?" Ning Shui said with a serious expression as he ran. "She was swapped. People alone are in more danger. I hope she's okay." The 2 of them ran out of the arched gate first, then passed through a few more alleys, finally arriving at a deserted courtyard. "I can't go on. I can't run anymore." Feng Yu panted heavily, hands on his knees. "Damn it, that ghost is really cunning. It can transform into our appearances." Ning Shui replied, "Right, it did that once before. I should have been on guard, but I got careless. If you hadn't suddenly asked it a question outside the room, I probably still wouldn't have realized." Feng Yu chuckled. "Looks like I'm useful too, haha." "But when was Sister Bai swapped?" Both fell silent. No one knew when Bai Xiao had been swapped. Because after entering this old house, no one spoke to her anymore, and she was walking at the back. Now they didn't even know if she was alive or dead. "What do we do now? Continue looking for the script or go find Sister Bai?" Feng Yu asked the other 2. Mengjun said, "Find her." His voice was cold and resolute, no intention of discussing it with anyone. Ning Shui wasn't surprised by Mengjun's choice. He had long sensed that this man, though cold on the outside, cared deeply about his friends. The three of them continued along the path they had just taken. This time, all three were highly focused, holding exorcism artifacts in their hands, ready to deal with any ghosts that might appear from the darkness at any moment. However, the ghost that had targeted them seemed to have vanished, not appearing again. Probably went to find the film crew. This ghost likes side dishes too. Feng Yu gave a faint, bitter laugh. They returned to the house from before. As soon as they reached the base of the large tree, they saw the door to the middle room opposite was open. Bai Xiao and Jun Tiao appeared before the three of them. "Bai Jie," Feng Yu called out happily, about to rush over but then remembered what had just happened, so he stood still, only waving at Bai Xiao, his eyes still wary. After confirming the two girls before them were real people, they finally felt at ease. "Damn it, Bai Jie, what were you doing? You scared us to death," Feng Yu complained. Bai Xiao crossed her arms, biting her lip with a helpless expression. "I don't know either. I was walking just now when suddenly I couldn't find any of you anymore. I also appeared on an unfamiliar road. At that moment, I immediately thought that ghost had found me, but I waited and waited without seeing it. Only later did I realize it had gone to find you all. After that, I got lost in this old house, wanting to find you all. On the way, I ran into her." After speaking, Bai Xiao gestured with her chin towards the slender girl, Jun Tiao beside her. Ningqiu Shui frowned. "That ghost has such an ability, yet it didn't act against you, but chose us first. That's strange. Isn't a ghost killing people random?" Feng Yu didn't understand. He felt it was quite normal. "It is random, but not entirely. It has a selection preference. Whether it was director Zheng Chao who was killed first or team leader Shu Wu who was killed later, they were both killed when they were alone. This shows that ghost prefers to kill people who are alone." Mengjun beside them said, "There are two possibilities. First, this ability of the ghost is restricted by the Crimson Door. It cannot immediately act against the person it swapped with after swapping, otherwise it would be too overpowered. The second possibility is that the three rooms in this small courtyard truly contain something important. It acted against us so hastily to stop us." "Did you two find any important clues?" Ningqiu Shui asked Bai Xiao. Bai Xiao shook her head and sighed. "No, didn't find anything at all." After speaking, she suddenly winked at Ningqiu Shui. Ningqiu Shui calmly turned her head to look at Jun Tiao. "And you?" Jun Tiao crossed her arms over her chest. "Hey, I was with Bai Xiao. If I found something, wouldn't she know? Besides, I don't even know what to look for." Feng Yu widened his eyes, his face full of suspicion. "You can lie without blushing or your heart racing. Huh? You don't know what to look for, yet you dared to charge into this old house? You say that, even my unweaned niece would shake her head." Jun Tiao fell silent. "I came in here because I saw you all entering, so I followed. This old house is so dangerous. What are you all doing in here?" Ningqiu Shui replied, "Of course, to find the ghost's true form. Isn't that obvious? Do you even need to ask? Moreover, now is the best time. Just now, a group of people came in here to film. The probability of the ghost targeting us isn't high, and even if it does target us, it won't cling to us relentlessly." Jun Tiao rolled her eyes. How about letting me go with you all? More people means more safety, and besides, I can also lend a hand." Hearing this, all three secretly cursed her as a vixen. If she had directly asked them, "Do you know what the ghost's true form is?" they would have definitely shaken their heads in denial. But Jun Tiao didn't ask. Instead, she directly wanted to join their group. If they refused, it would be tantamount to indirectly admitting they knew crucial clues about the ghost's true form and didn't want outsiders to know. And if they agreed, she could use the pretext of being with the four of them to protect herself, freely searching for the exorcism artifact and the fragment inside the old house. After all, sticking with four people holding exorcism artifacts was safer than acting alone. Tsk, you really have thick skin, wanting to use the four of us as your human shields? Feng Yu, though foolish, wasn't an idiot. He saw through Jun Tiao's intentions. Jun Tiao shamelessly continued, "Don't put it that way. The old house is so vast, anything could be the ghost's true form. The four of you searching alone definitely won't be easy. One more person means one more pair of hands, right? Ningqiu Shui smiled faintly. Fine, but if we find the exorcism artifact and the fragment, they belong to us. Otherwise, we won't take you with us. Moreover, after finding the ghost's true form, we won't destroy it immediately. You know what we'll do then. The smile on Jin Tiao Tiao's face vanished instantly. She sighed. I give up. I can't outwit you all. All four of you are very clever. In this instance, I really have no advantage. Besides, I also have to look after a kid. Hearing this, the four exchanged glances. Bai Xiaoxiao said, All right, what's the clue? Jun Tiao Tiao slowly said, Cleverness often becomes its own undoing. The same goes for ghosts. The four were dumbfounded upon hearing this. Feng Yu looked at her with an expression that said, Are you messing with me? No way, you think we're fools? A cryptic sentence like that is a clue to find the ghost's true form? Jun Tiao Tiao shook her head. I never said this is a clue to find the ghost's true form. It might be, or it might not be. But I can assure you all, this is a clue about the exit from outside the Crimson Door. As for whether I'm spouting nonsense or not, once you all find the exit, you'll naturally know if this clue is true or false. Bai Xiaoxiao was silent for a moment. All right, thank you for providing the clue. If we find the exit or find the ghost's true form and discover you haven't deceived us, we'll keep our promise. Jin Xiao Tiao nodded upon hearing this. If that's the case, I'll take my leave now. It's truly very dangerous inside this old house. Actually, I didn't come in this time intending to snatch any exorcism artifact or fragment. I originally planned to share this clue with everyone, to search for the exit together. But this time, a few people who entered are lone wolves, without teammates, so I didn't dare take the risk. You understand. After saying that, she left. Watching Jin Tiao Tiao's back disappear into the distance, the four of them fell silent. Do you guys think what she said is trustworthy? Feng Yu sounded a bit uncertain. Ningqiu Shui said, The credibility is very high. She has no motive to deceive us. Those outside who support continuing the filming are definitely less trustworthy than her. The longer this drags on, the more disadvantageous it is for her. If we all die, her situation will only get worse. But what I'm more concerned about is, where exactly did she get the clue about the way out being outside this Crimson Door? Just now, the moment Jun Tiao Tiao finished speaking, Ningqiu Shui immediately thought of the 3 mysterious letters he had received. Could Jun Tiao Tiao be Red Bean? Or are there many others who have also received mysterious letters of unknown origin? In an instant, countless doubts flooded his mind. But Ningqiu Shui quickly pushed those thoughts aside. The most important thing right now is how to survive. These matters can be investigated after getting out. Intelligence often becomes its own downfall, and ghosts are no different. This was a very vague piece of information, but some of the words within it had been confirmed. This ghost truly was very intelligent, at least among the ghosts they had encountered so far. It not only knew how to use the gloomy atmosphere of a rainy day to drive people away and retrieve its true form, but it also knew how to swap and disguise itself. And Jun Tiao Tiao's reminder indicated that this ghost, while doing these things, seemed to have left a loophole.